Today on Homeworthy, we're discovering beautiful London homes that showcase unique design and inspiring transformations. First, we'll explore Phoebe Hollond's beautifully renovated townhouse, where bold colors and eclectic decor create a vibrant family home. Next, content creator Sarah Laming invites us into her cozy home, showcasing her signature relaxed maximalism style. Then we'll step inside Katherine Ormerod's charming rental townhouse, where high style meets budget-friendly design. Finally, Kemi Lawson, co-founder of the Cornrow, shares her historic Northern London home, blending African-Aristo and Caribbean chic aesthetics into a captivating space. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Phoebe. Welcome to my home in West London. Come on in. When we first saw this place, we fell in love with it, but it really, really was because of its potential. It was truly horrific. It needed complete gutting. Like, it had no beautiful details in it. The skirting boards were terrible, the cornicing was terrible. It was just really quite in an awful state. So we had to completely redo it, and that was really exciting for us, especially as a designer, because it meant that I could basically, it was a blank canvas and I could put my personality on it. So in my entrance hall, I have a piece this was actually a wedding present, designed by one of my best friends, and above it is also a painting done by her. She is called Poppy Valentine, and she's a very talented artist. And then there's just like lots of little knickknacks, and my favourite fornasetti candle, which smells completely delicious. So actually one of the major changes we did with this entrance hall was we made it wider. So originally when we bought the house, this wall was it basically was like 90 centimetres, so this total width was 90 centimetres. So we actually moved it. Meant that we lost a bit more space in our snug, but we moved it that way so that we just had a bit more of a generous entrance hall, which I think is really important when you enter into a house, because if you enter into a kind of dark, closed entrance hall, you immediately feel a bit kind of, I don't know, depressed. So, and that's just not what we want our guests to feel, or us to feel, so that's why we made it larger. We added this cornicing detailing on the ceiling, so there's some interest. And then I found these beautiful antique star lanterns, and I bought a pair of them, and then like that juxtaposed with all the kind of quite crazy modern art we thought was quite interesting. And then the other detail that we added here was creating kind of these interesting, slightly kind of masculine architraves, and added double doors rather than just a kind of, pathetic single door. And then I got these star handles bespoke made in Florence, just so there was like a kind of statement entrance to, actually that's my studio in there where I work. Speaking of my studio, let's take a look in there now. So here we are in my studio. This is where all the magic for Studio Hollond happens. Studio Holland's my interior design firm. We do houses around the world, actually restaurants as well, and hotels. We're actually launching a product collection. I'll show you later. I've just designed a dining table. You'll see it when we go downstairs. And we're launching some fabrics, some wallpapers, lighting, and a couple of quite crazy chairs. So that's all happening later this year, which is really exciting. But in this room, so I guess This was like a total overhaul. As you can see, I went quite crazy on the cornicing, and I put like pretty ornate cornicing in here, but I wanted it to feel like a kind of Parisian boudoir. And then I also packed out behind the either side of the fireplace to get these interestingly shaped shelves. And then this is like all our interior design books, and actually every single world of interiors since when it first started in like the 1980s. I managed to track every single copy down because it's pretty inspiring. Yeah, so this is kind of where we do our work. And then this is one of my favorite pieces. So I got this, and it holds all of my fabrics, and it's beautifully painstakingly color-coded and organized. So you have like your oranges, your pinks, your greens, and then it's also organized into types of materials. So you start with linens, and you have velvets, mohairs, and then you have organic patterns, geometric patterns. So that's a pleasure. These lamps are this incredible woman called Victoria Stain now. She really does do some of the most beautiful ceramics, and she actually does lamps like this, but as stools, and you can choose any single glazing colour, which is quite a fun thing to do. Actually, the table itself is just a really inexpensive table. This is actually what I do quite a lot. So because I think that at the end of the day with round tables, you can obviously spend a fortune on like an Old English or a rosewood or whatever it is. But actually, like if you're going to cover them, which I quite like to do, I think you can just get a kind of cheapo number, and then you just get a really interesting tablecloth. This is a Lisa Corti, who I think is one of the most incredible textile designers. She does everything printed in India and just really beautiful patterns. And then these chairs, these were really hard to track down. I wanted effectively a set of 4 actually they're old IKEA chairs from I think they're mid-century, and I spent ages tracking them down because I wanted to have this kind of like black, almost trellis look, then with multicoloured, different patterned cushions on them. So I just thought it would add a bit of masculinity with the kind of, I guess, variation of patterns. The one great thing about this house was the fact that it had pretty much every single room had a fireplace, which is really lucky because I think it does add a lot of charm and character. They actually are underneath, they're all marble, and I criminally painted them because I thought the marble in here was just a little bit too OTT, and I just thought this kind of like pared it back and just made it feel a little bit more modern rather than old-fashioned. And then with this mirror, rather than having a super old-fashioned mirror, which I could have very easily done, having something that was a bit more Art Deco and kind of quirky, I think just like made this room just feel a bit more playful. And then this piece is actually one of my most favourite pieces from my parents' old house in the country, and it was one of the things that I got that I love more than anything. I think out of all the things in my house, this is probably my favourite belonging. The style that I went for with my home was I wanted each space to have a different feeling. I wanted like to enter a room and feel like I was in a different world. So for here, as I said before, it's like this kind of French boudoir meets Morocco, like definitely wanted this kind of like darker, more sensational feeling, with these like really heavy Italian velvet curtains. And then I guess like the old kind of brown pieces. So I feel like each space, I mean the overall design, like my overall design and the overall design style of the studio is eclectic. I think there's like quite a lot of European influences in it, but also there is a very English look because that is what I've been brought up with and that's my heritage and those types of houses I've lived in. So I think it's kind of a mixture of eclectic meets English meets modern European. The artwork in here is quite modern and fun. I got all the Calder pieces as a wedding present. Actually, a lot of my artwork was wedding presents. I had a list on the Comran shop and really kindly some of my greatest friends got me the Calder pieces. Then this is a Miro, and then this is a Chagall lithograph. My husband actually hates it. He says it's the most horrifying thing he's ever seen, which is why it's in my study and not anywhere else. I'd like to tell you about this light. This is a really old-fashioned lantern from a country house, and I just love the scale of it because actually the ceiling height in here is quite impressive, and so having kind of such a large lantern in the middle as well just like draws your eye up, and it makes you realise how impressive the heights are here, especially for a London townhouse. And the fact that you would normally see this in the entrance hall is quite fun, that it's actually in a room like such as a study. So I just thought it was quite interesting way of using it. But also to get it in, we had to bolt it into the floorboards above because it's so heavy. The room next to my studio is actually our snug. This is where we cozy up and actually watch TV. So very cleverly, behind this map, you open up and you can pull out the TV and watch a movie. I really don't like TVs on display. I think it's such an ugly thing to have in your house. So it's really nice to be able to hide it behind something like this. So I chose for the front of my TV box a image of basically astrology. I have a slight addiction to star signs, i.e. I'm really, really, really obsessed with them. And this basically is all this old imagery of effectively star sign creatures. So for example, you've got the Capricorn here, you've got Taurus, Bull, you've got Gemini, and so it's kind of quite a fun old map of the world that has these creatures and the associated star signs with it. And I thought it worked really well in here because there is a bit of a kind of ethereal meets circus, meets out of this world theme going on in here. It definitely feels so different to the studio next door because it's slightly trippy. And I just wanted a different sensation in here. It's kind of uplifting but unusual. And then the other clever thing actually is if I'm working and someone's like chilling in here, we have these doors made so we can just like literally close it off and then you don't hear what's going on in either room. This is my dog Darcy, who's on the sofa. This actually seems to be her bedroom now, even though she does have a dog bed. So I was very lucky with this sofa because this is actually my parents' old sofa. They must have had it even before I was born, so it's a kind of old-fashioned George Smith sofa, which I think is really, really special to own. And I'm sure my siblings will one day come and try and take it from me. But for now, it will be in my snug. And I love how it's upholstered in a cover because, as you can see, my dog sleeps on the sofa. So we can actually take them off and wash them, which is actually quite practical. And then the walls are upholstered in a Claremont, which is my favourite fabric house, Stripe. The fabric house is in Chelsea, and I think they have one in New York as well. But they do the most beautiful fabrics, and this is one of their stripes. And it was painstakingly upholstered in the traditional way of adding battens to the wall and then filling the space of the battens with wadding and then upholstering the fabric. So it took a very long time to achieve this in this room. And then, of course, I mean, the detailing of the trims, they've made the piping out of the fabric. So they've done an incredible job. And then, of course, every single individual scallop was made with a pop of lemon braid going around each scallop, which then I think works really nicely with these quite crazy cashmere cushions, which were designed by Bella Freud, which I love because I love like the kind of leopard print look with
the pop of yellow up there. This rug, and then of course there's the yellow in this rug. This rug is an old antique Swedish flat weave rug. And I love using these in snugs because they just add a little bit of colour, and it kind of ties all the colours that you've used together in the room. But they're also just like quite soothing, I think, and their kind of geometric style works really well because there's nothing over the top and kind of, you know, in your face about it. So it's just quite kind of calming to have there. And then curtains are obviously a seriously important factor to a snug, and we kind of umdenard of whether we do the same curtain fabric as the walls, but actually we decided to keep it quite fresh and then actually just tie it in with the sofa, so have this kind of modernity to the space by having bespoke made just off-white linen curtains, which I think works really nicely because like, you do get the privacy, but it's not heavy and you still get light coming through when it's closed. So that's I think quite lovely. This light is a mid-century 1950s Italian Stilnova light, and I love when it's on, and you'll see it better at night, but it just creates such a kind of warm glow. If you imagine the curtains closed and these lights on, it's just very, very, very cozy. So these striped lamps, I just thought, because I love matching and I love clashing, all in the same space. And I think there is a lot of clashing in here. You know, you've got the leopard print with the stripes, with the bright white, with then the kind of Suzanne-y cushions on the sofa. So I just feel like it was quite cool to actually just have a bit of a match moment. So I thought doing the blue and white striped lamps in front of the blue and striped fabric walling was actually going to work quite well, just to add a bit of harmony. As an interior designer, I love decorating my own home, but I guess what I don't love is the fact that I have all these ideas, and all my ideas tend to cost a lot of money. So it's about trying to achieve the vision that you have without spending the money your clients would have to spend. I feel like the best compliment someone could say about my home is that they feel so happy in it. For me, a good home isn't like whether it's been decorated to the inch of its life with ridiculously expensive things. It is a home that makes people feel good when they come in and that they just have a good time. I love entertaining. I love having people over. It's one of my favorite things. We throw dinner parties all the time, which is why actually part of the renovation was doing the basement and effectively making it a large, open, planned kitchen and dining, because it meant that when I was entertaining, I can talk to all my friends and they can all be there in the same space. Whereas before, when we bought the house, the kitchen was actually the powder room, which is just at the top of the stairs. We've now turned it into the powder room, but it was the kitchen, which was very small and very isolating. So whenever we have friends over, I couldn't talk to them, which is not ideal. My favourite room in the house, oh God, it's so difficult because they all have such different feelings. So then they're kind of favourite in the moment that I'm in. But I think probably now my favourite room is the kitchen, because it's like dining in an Italian tavern. All right, let's go check out the rest of the house. We're on our way downstairs, but this is the little powder room that I actually love, with a red and white checkerboard Zellage floor, this incredible wallpaper. Wallpaper is called Bird and Nest. And then I installed the tongue and groove panelling below and got this old-fashioned Shanks sink. These two wall lights either side of the mirror I bought from Locks Road Auction House, which is one of the best auction houses, I think. I actually installed this old church window that I found in a reclamation yard in Somerset. I had to get planning for it because it's this conservation area in London. And I love an old cistern loo. It's very English. It's a bit annoying to flush, but I think it's one of the best blues in the world. And this fabric is a very old Italian fabric that I repurposed. It was at my parents' country house, and it had been just sat in one of the outhouses for ages, and it basically had kind of mice all over it. So I got it washed up, repurposed, and made into curtains, which I think works really well. And then I'm not going to I'll sneakily show you behind here, but there's my utility room. So it's hidden because it's messy. Cool, let's go downstairs. So this is my kitchen. Before, when I bought this place, it was a photographer's studio. So basically there was nothing but concrete floors and white walls and damp. The house also originally ended here. So we actually added this extension on with 3 French doors, this roof lantern, and this roof lantern, which actually makes the space feel not dark at all, and it brings in a lot of light. I always have a feeling about roof lanterns that they're so kind of angular, and there's a sharpness to them. So I got this trellis made there and there to basically soften the opening and make it feel a bit more traditional. And I think that works really nicely, because I think if you just have a kind of vacuous opening, it just feels a bit soulless in a way. So I just wanted to add this detailing to just make it feel more homely and softer. So my kitchen, effectively, we had to keep it quite simple, but actually that doesn't really bother me, because I think a simple kitchen is really lovely. So just a kind of large island in the middle with then just like one linear row of kitchen joinery. And then quite cleverly, because we were building this wall out to separate this space and that space, we designed to feed into the wall effectively a huge larder unit. So that's where we store a lot of our food. And then here, because we wanted some light to go into the next space, we did open double-sided bookshelves, which is quite fun. And if this was empty, it's got loads of games in it right now, you could climb through it, or at least my daughter could climb through it. I probably couldn't. This is a very old Italian light designed by Segusta. I hunted high and low for one of these because I really wanted something that worked well with the other Italian light, but I didn't want it to be newly made. I wanted it to feel old and like it has kind of been somewhere forever. And I finally came across this bubble, well, they're called bubble cage Murano lights, and I purchased it, and I'm so happy. Though heartbreakingly, when it arrived smashed, but I installed it anyway, and I don't think you can tell. And this floor is probably the most incredible floor in the world. This is actually antique Versailles flooring. My stepmother gave this to me, which is unbelievably lucky and generous, because I think this actually makes the space. It's one of the most beautiful floors, I think, ever. And the colour, the tone of it, the warm brown with it, with then the white walls, I think works really nicely. These tiles behind the kitchen, so effectively these are all hand painted in Italy, and I think there's something really, really charming about having these tiles with this floor, because obviously it's a bit of like a French, it's very European, so you have the French floor, the Italian tiles, the very English quaint trellis. So there is a kind of big mixture of lots of things down here. I mean, the colours they're quite soothing, even though it's a mix of kind of cultures and provenances, because I guess like the greens and the pinks, like that is like one of the most soothing colour combinations you can ever get, which is really it's really lovely. It just makes me feel very happy. And then we added these just small details onto bits of the joinery, so there, and then those two cupboards, and then here with these then antique brass handles, which I think just having kind of very special handles with a special worktop, you don't necessarily need, ridiculously expensive drawer faces or cupboard faces, in my opinion. I love this picture. This is another Chagall, actually they're both Chagall lithographs. I actually got this framed when the renovations happened. This was framed in the same frame as this, but it broke, and actually I'm quite happy it broke, because then I got it framed in a hot pink, which I think makes it even more fun than it already is, because it is a goat and some man and a fish. I mean, it's all very, very, very surreal, isn't it? So this copper sink came from France along with this tap from the same company, and I love the fact that this copper actually it goes darker over time. So copper is obviously a live material, so when you don't clean it and you just kind of use it, it ends up going this incredible dark verdigris. So the fact that it changes all the time is quite fun. And then I really wanted to have some of my kind of most precious things on display. So I got these open shelves made rather than having tall cabinets above, because it's just quite nice. If you don't need all the storage, quite nice to have open shelves to showcase kind of beautiful jugs or artwork or, whatever it is. This is a duck beer bottle opener, but I just think it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I got this off Bukowski's, that Swedish auction house. It's one of my favorite. And this is really special. This is a Ukrainian plate that actually I was given as a present by our builder, and he got it made in Ukraine when he finished the project for me, and he delivered this. And it's just so beautiful, and I think they do such incredible craft work over there. So that's really precious to have, and I think it looks lovely under the light. And yeah, just a lot of, I don't know, this is really nostalgic for me. It's an old sugar, a sugar dish, but it's just, I've had that for years, and it was my parents', and I just think it's really quite special. So just quite nice to have things up there that you can show off rather than closed away behind cupboard doors. This is an old cabinet. Originally, the colour was this aubergine in this really beautiful drag finish, and there was much debate about whether I keep it like this or I go a softer colour, and we decided to go for a softer pink because it kind of tied in very well with the green, and we felt that perhaps the aubergine would be a bit heavy with this Italian fridge next to it, because it's quite a big fridge. So we ended up kind of painting it over in this very subtle pink, which I think looks really lovely, especially with all the orange and different coloured glassware, and then of course the green wine glasses. Yeah, I think it's worked really, really well. On top of this cabinet, actually, this was a wedding present from my sister, and it is based on our childhood story, our favourite story, Guess How Much I Love You. I don't know if you have it in the States, I'm sure you do, but it's one of the most beautiful stories about a big hare and a little hare, and they talk about how much they love each other. So she got that made by a kind of artist who works in metal, which is, yeah, it's pretty sentimental. I really love it. And then obviously all my booze, which is great. These two pieces are really special. I bought these at Locks Road auction. This is a Picasso lithograph, and this is a Fernand Ledger lithograph. And these are actually two of my favourite pieces that I own. I actually bought them in the same auction, and they work so well together, and I think the sizes of them and and I think the position is just, they're great. I think they're really quite fun. This is my favourite space in the house, the fact that you have the kitchen and the dining room next to each other. I feel like it's such a luxury. The idea that I can entertain and be cooking at the same time, and it's all just happening in the same space. Yeah, it's really fun. It's a really good party place. Also, especially in the summer when we open the doors and people flow in and out to the garden, it's really, really lovely. This table is one of my designs that I'm going to start selling. It's going to be called the Serpentine Table, and the design, you'll be able to order it in any colour. It's lacquered, so at the moment it's like a really, really dark green lacquer with then an off-white scallopy detail underneath, and then off-white little paws, which I thought was quite cute. And I love this table for a dining table, and the fact that it's got very soft edges as well is quite nice, because I mean, I guess in a place where you need to move around, it's nicer that you don't have kind of sharp edges, also especially with a child. This is a funny story. My sister's fiance, they were his grandmother's chairs, and he wanted to throw them away. I thought, oh my God, if he actually knew how beautiful they could be. So I said, look, give them to me. I took them to a restorer, and they basically restored them, and I supplied the fabric, and they reupholstered them. They did the beautiful, I supplied the piping detail here. And now my sister's fiance wants them back. Now I've made them really nice, which I'm refusing to, because a lot of time and love went into making them nice, and he wanted to chuck them away. But I think they went really well with the table, because the table's obviously quite kind of modern and fun, and then these are actually very old-fashioned chairs, but then they're upholstered in a Pierre Frey Lemonac fabric, which I think the colour, the tones work really well with the floor and the table. I just think, yeah, it kind of blends very nicely. It feels very soothing, this space. And then this chandelier, I got this bespoke made in Venice, and it arrived in, I cannot even tell you how many individual pieces. So we had to make it by using a instruction pamphlet, which was like the most complicated thing ever. And it was really, really difficult. It took like 2 days to basically put together. I was expecting it to arrive already made, but no. So it was really quite difficult, because every single piece came. But I love it. I love the colour of it. I love the scale of it. And I just think it's quite mad. I could have gone for a white one, and we did think about it. But then I thought, is that just a bit boring? So yeah, now it's kind of Shrek green. This vase was given to me by my mum the other day, and she bought it from Liberty's. And I think it's such a beautiful design, and it's so clever, because the way that the handles effectively work so well with the table, and then this pink works really well with the pink in the lady's dress there. And then, of course, like ties in beautifully with the curtains that we have here, which are just like a soft Belgium linen. And the way that these are just so light, and the way that they flow, and it's just all very gentle and very soft. And I just love the combination of pink and green. I just think it is a really like pleasant, it just gives off a really pleasant feeling. And then you can add in these stronger tones, so like this more kind of like heavier red, which then doesn't feel so heavy, because you have the softness of all of the pinks and greens, which I think is quite lovely. This is a mirror lithograph. It doesn't actually have any colours here, but I really liked that. I liked that it just was adding something totally different, and the fact that it is just quite weird in terms of the form, and being next to two like quite traditional lanterns. I thought it was quite fun and like playful, and yeah, just an interesting way to hang art when it's just surprising. Oh, this was a very funny purchase. I bought it years ago from the Royal Academy summer exhibition, and it was probably one of the weirdest things I've ever bought. And I woke up the next day thinking, what have I done? So this is our master bedroom. Well, so this bedroom, this was one of the first things we did 7 years ago. We reupholstered the walls in this kind of browny gold seagrass wallpaper, and then we painted all the joinery. Originally, we painted it in pink with lipstick red bead detailing. But my husband was very, very unhappy, and he made the builder change it the next day. So my pink and red was finally allowed in this designed headboard that I designed and got made, which I love. And then adding kind of other pops of colours and textiles. So this Cezanne, I think, is quite fun, which then juxtaposes the headboard. So I think it's just like adding like little elements of wildness. And then just like these cushions, so having like bolster cushions, again another stripe with then just like square cushions on top is always quite a good way to dress a bed, even though it is very annoying to take them off and on again every single night. Another fireplace in here, which is really lovely. I wish it was working, but that one isn't. I would love it to be, but perhaps that would be a little bit gross, going to bed with a roaring fire. They did do that historically, didn't they? This light is a silk light from one of my favourite companies called Gong. And I love the way that it has like when it's on, it's such a nice glow. This chair, it's upholstered in one of my favourite designers' fabrics, Beata Heyman, and then having a kind of Suzanne cushion on it works really well with that Suzanne without being too over the top. So I think that's quite fun. So there are like bits of pattern here, but it also feels very much like there is a kind of seriousness to the room. You can kind of see the bits that I guess my husband chose. And then we have all of my clothes behind here. It's kind of concealed away. So this is our bookshelves in here. We actually have quite a lot of bookshelves in this house, don't we? But we are very big readers, and we have read every single one of these books from front to back. So designing a house with a husband who is quite opinionated is an interesting thing to do. On the whole, I would just go ahead with something like I did with painting this room in pink and lipstick red bead detailing. But my mistake that was made 7 years ago is that he will just make me change it if he's really unhappy. So now I do have to speak to him and give him like some opportunity to say his opinion. Otherwise, there would be quite a fair amount of redoing. So yes, it is. It's an interesting task. So this is my daughter's bedroom. Everything you see in here we did. So before it was just a blank canvas, the walls were just plain white, there was kind of wooden flooring in here, and so we completely effectively renovated it. So put in this tongue and groove and painted it this beautiful Farrow Ball India yellow, and then above is a wallpaper by Antoinette Prossen, which is a French wallpaper house in Paris. And they do the most beautiful designs. And I love it because when I'm changing her nappy, she actually points up to this, and she loves it as well. So it's just kind of such a happy thing that she loves the pattern. So yeah, I love this room. My mother gave this to Alba when she was born. It's a mobile from the Met in New York, and we were told not to hang it over her bed because it might freak her out, but actually I find her every single morning just like screaming at the fact that she wants to be closer to it. So I might actually move it or move her cot. But it's quite fun because I think like all the colours being primary colours, it's just a nice and playful thing. This chair is upholstered in a Spanx 10 fabric. the Joseph Frank place in Stockholm, which has had such huge success in recent years. And I love just like how wild it is, and the fact that it kind of is very clashy with the kind of traditional French wallpaper having something so kind of in your face. It's quite fun. So I think that's quite charming. And then actually there are so many hideous things that you buy for a child. It's very, very hard, I think, to find good-looking things. Like the changing tables that they sell in shops is really just monstrous, and I didn't want to have it. So I have this antique table which is very rickety, and I'm just waiting for it to fall, but hopefully it won't. But it's just a slightly more good-looking changing table, and it's worked perfectly for the last year, so I think it's all good. This cabinet, so this was inspired by the Duomo in Florence. I actually bought this pine cabinet for absolutely nothing, and then got an artist to come in and paint this this Florentine-inspired black and white. And then inside it stores, because you need a lot of storage when you have a baby, it stores absolutely everything that she needs. So it's really, really practical. And then we decided to use an old linen cupboard for all her clothes, which is actually very organised. And so it's quite fun. I mean, I love children. There's something about children's clothes that's just so much more exciting than our clothes. This painting, I bought this in Sri Lanka on my travels by this kind of very cool young artist that I met out there. And I just loved the colours of it. I thought it was quite fun in here, especially again against this traditional old-fashioned wallpaper, to have something that's kind of so tropical and, you know, just not what you would expect. I just think these things, when they clash, and especially for a child, that you just don't want to be too serious. Like it's, I don't know, I feel like far more enchanting if you aren't so serious. This carpet is the squishiest carpet in the world, and it's a bright green. And it's so soft, and it's basically a silk. It's based on old English carpets that you see in country houses, and it's just so squishy and delicious. And yeah, it's just very, very cozy. So I feel like a lot of people decorate their rooms based on the gender that they're going to have. But actually, I mean, I knew I was having a girl, but I don't think that this room is particularly girly. And I think very easily a boy could be in here. And I think yellow and green is an incredible combination to achieve that, because you have the kind of happiness of a yellow, meaning sunshine, and then you have the kind of, I guess, like the nature feeling of green. So it's just a very in the middle, I think, colour combination. These blinds, this is actually the same fabric as I have downstairs, so it's from Claremont, but it's the other colourway that they do, the red and white. I love that. For some reason, you can buy millions of stripes online, but for some reason their stripe just is the right stripe. It's the proportion, it's the colour, it's the tone, it's the feeling. They've just nailed the stripe. So I also bought it in the red and white and got it made into a blind. And then this pendant I bought at a French market, which I thought was quite fun, just to add a little bit of like rattan bamboo in here, just to kind of make it feel like it has a natural element to it. On this floor, we also have the master bathroom. I love this room. Bathrooms are actually one of my favourite rooms to design when designing a house, because I think that it's a lot of fun to make a bathroom feel like a room rather than a bathroom. I think that, for me, having baths is one of life's luxuries. I can lie in a bath for hours on end, so I wanted the room to feel really special. So, for example, I actually bought antique wall lights to go either side the bath, which is so nice, because when you're lying there and you have your candles going, and then just like those lights just turned on like very, very, very just low down, it's just a really, really nice feeling. And I just love the privacy that these blinds create. So it kind of feels like a very like all-encompassing space that you feel like you're in a world of your own, and it's just very like private and cozy. This vanity unit, I just think the shape of it is just so beautiful, and I love the way that they made these old ceramic units like this. And the kind of very generous basin, I think, works really nicely with the old-fashioned taps that tarnish beautifully over time. And then, of course, just a bit of bamboo, because I think like it's quite nice just to have some natural elements, because I guess with a bathroom, the issue is it always feels quite hard, quite tough, because I guess everything is ceramic. So it's just nice to introduce natural elements like that just softens the space. I mean, again, of course, like you do that with blinds and the Parisian curtain there. We actually installed, again, the tongue and groove, this is called bead and butt, onto the ceiling just to have a bit of interest on the ceiling, because it's quite nice when you're in the bath not to be looking at just a plain boring ceiling, in my opinion. This lantern is, again, a very old lantern from Lots Road auction, and I thought it was quite fun to hang in here. I am going to talk about my husband again. He really doesn't like this in here. And he hits his head on it all the time, but I've refused to move it because I love it in here, and I think it does just create this kind of like, I wanted this bathroom to feel like it had been here for a long time. I wanted it to feel like old rather than it had just been renovated. And I think like the elements of those wall lights with the old lantern, with like the old vanity, like it really does create that. The artwork in here, we've changed it so many times. I had huge poster. I found it very difficult actually. This was probably one of the biggest struggles I've had renovating, was what to put on this wall because of the slanted the sloped ceiling. I found it very difficult to understand what I needed to do to fill the space, and I ended up realising it had to be something circular over the centre of the bath and then separate pieces above the loo. And I particularly love those nudes. I think it works really well because when you're actually having a shower, you almost feel like you're showering in an artist's studio. It feels quite special. This marble's called Green Fantasy. I really, really wanted to have a green and cream bathroom just because I think it's very soothing, and I also really wanted to have a stone floor made out of large marble slabs, just because I think it's so much nicer when you don't have lots of little grout lines that get really dirty. It just has a slightly more luxurious feel to it, I think. So this was a very special purchase to install all this marble. I'm very happy and feel very lucky with it, and then to get the guy to install the marble skirting as well. That was actually something I had to persuade my husband to be happy about, but I was quite sure that that's what I wanted. Home to me is a place where you feel safe, where you create memories, where you have fun, where you just have a kind of really lovely time with your family, with your friends. So thank you, Homeworthy. It's been really fun showing you around my home, and I think it's time for you to go. Bye.
Today on Homeworthy, we're visiting the idyllic home of content creator and author Sarah Laming. Her Instagram account, A Home to Make You Smile, has garnered over 1 million followers thanks to her signature relaxed maximalism style and inviting layered aesthetic. During our tour through the cozy room, she gives us a glimpse into the peaceful, real life behind the viral photos. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Sarah Laming and welcome to my home in London. Here we are, welcome to the hallway, which is the central focus to the house, and it is so unusual for a London home to have a hallway that stretches the length and breadth, and that's one of the things that really first drew us to the house. I also really love the fact that it is almost a room in itself, and so as you walk in it's really welcoming. There's a chair over here. It's a really old and battered chair that came from a French flea market hundreds of years ago, but the dog Twiglet usually sleeps in there and keeps guard of the house from there for us. I love vintage furniture and furniture with stories and heritage, things that have soul because they've been passed down through generations. So a lot of the things you see in here I have bought over our travels or over our time just hunting for pieces of furniture that I love and that absolutely talk to me. So both the rugs that you can see I bought in Morocco, in Fez, sort of about 10 years ago, maybe even more. I got some from a carpet shop, and then really amazingly, we were really lucky when we went there because friends of ours were living there and had a riad. And so they took me to the junk souk, which is outside the city walls, and there was a man in an old tin hut who literally had his rugs hanging over the hut and beating them clean and dry. And he had been to the markets in the Atlas Mountains, and he had the most incredible selection. So I think this rug came from him. This rug came from a carpet shop. This chest is one that I got from Ardingly Antiques Market, which is a very famous antique market in the UK. You have to get up really, really early to get there to get the good buys. But this was one that I found and was actually incredibly cheap. I'd seen them online for a lot more. The lamp here comes from Singapore. We were really lucky and spent 4 years living in Singapore when I was in my 20s, early 30s. And I picked up loads and loads of pieces when we lived there. It's when I really started falling in love with antiques, particularly Asian ones and their character. So that is an old Chinese lamp with a modern Pookie lampshade on top. And the medicine chest that you see here is another object that came back from Singapore with us. It's I spent years saving up for them. They're really famous old Chinese apothecary chests where they stored all their herbs and their medicines. And I saw one and I knew that I absolutely really wanted one, and I had to save and save and save for it. But it's got hundreds of little drawers which they use to put their herbs and things in. So it's actually one of those chests that we never put anything in because we would never be able to find it again. So if you open a drawer, there might be an old receipt, an old coin, you never know, but nothing of any value. My picture here, that was bought online, actually from eBay, I think. I love old vintage art, and when we were decorating the house, I spent hours and hours hunting on eBay for pieces, so that was bought from there. My statues down here, they came back from Singapore with me. They, again, we got engaged when we lived in Singapore, and these two statues are a married couple, and they're a symbol of good luck, so they're a really nice thing that we brought back with us. The mantelpiece is, I guess, the star and the heart of the hall, and the star and the heart of the home. The fire's only ever really lit in there at Christmas, but it's always beautiful when it is with the Christmas tree, and it's a really sort of traditional English feeling when you have Christmas in here. Again, my two Staffordshire dogs picked up at a vintage antiques emporium down on the south coast. I'd wanted one of these for ages. They come in a pair and they're very, very English, very old-fashioned, but they're getting a new lease of life, and I think they're really cool. This is what my son, who's just been travelling in Southeast Asia, he bought me that back from Vietnam because he knew I'd like it. So that's a little thing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is when I'm building a home and thinking about the things that I put in it, everything I put in it is chosen with a lot of thought, but also a lot of love. And I always buy or put things in it that are really personal to me or have stories associated with them, which have a history. And so when I look at them, they always evoke a memory of a time that they were bought or a place or an emotion that I felt at the time. And that's my whole thing behind my Instagram account of building a home that makes you smile, that's really about you, and then styling it around it so it's not cluttered but is beautiful. So I absolutely love pieces of furniture that come to me with a story to tell. And my friend Anna gave me, who is the person who started my Instagram journey because she was the one who told me that I should start posting pictures of my house. Anyway, a couple of years ago, after her granny had died, she said to me, I think this table and chair would be perfect for your house. I don't know what to do with them from my granny. Would you like them? And I said, yes, I absolutely would. So pieces of furniture find their way to me, that's what I wanted to say, in stories in so many different ways, so much so that friends' grannies end up giving them to me. So this really beautiful old chair and old table have found their perfect new home. We moved into this house in 2005. We moved from a much more central London location, which I absolutely loved there. We could walk into Soho and the river. But it was so urban, and so we've just moved this few extra miles out to a much more villagey part in London, still very central though. And we get that green space and a garden and much more space in a house than we could otherwise have had. So we fell in love with this house when we moved into it because it's so unusual for a London home in that it's 2 floors and it's very wide and it's laterally spaced, whereas often I think in London you go up and up and up and up and you have rooms on different floors. But this house was built in 1905, I want to say, maybe 1908, for the doctor who lived in the village. And I think what we loved about it, like I said, when we came in, was the space that you get with it and the feel. It's also an arts and crafts house, so the craftsmanship and the detail that goes into everything is extraordinary, and that's what we love, and that's what we've tried to change as little as possible. So if you can see just the carving on things like the mantelpieces, or as we come over here, the carving on the divider between the hall and that very sunny morning room that we call it. So yeah, it was incredible detail, incredible workmanship that's gone into it, and we've loved so much. So now I'm going to take you into our kitchen, which is very bright and cheerful. Welcome to the kitchen, which is obviously quite a heart of the home. In this house, it was a really dark space when we first moved in. It was divided into 2 rooms, and it really struggles for light. It faces north and it faces onto a side alleyway, as you can see. So I have tried various colours in here to try and make it into a cheerful and not dark and gloomy space. It's yellow at the moment. It could well change again soon, but at the moment this is good. If you look around the kitchen, behind me you can see my yellow saucepans, again, that I picked up at a vintage flea market. And above there, along the shelf, is actually the wood carvings. I don't know what they call them, but they are for our wedding invitations. So when we got married, my husband was very keen that we didn't have a traditional wedding with kind of white wedding invitations with gold writing and so on. So he had a friend of his make us a really cool book for our wedding. My favourite poem is The Owl and the Pussycat, and so he made us a little book which we sent to our guests, which we can see, which invited them to the wedding. And they got this instead of an invitation. So that was really fun. I guess one of the things that I've learned about myself over 20, 30 years of styling houses is that I kind of never want my house to look like anybody else's. I want it to be a house that's about me, and you can tell that it's me that lives here when you walk in, or my family that lives here, not designed by an interior designer or like a trend that you see. So I tend to try and always look for ways of doing things that I love. And when we did this kitchen, I suddenly decided that I really wanted a concrete worktop. They weren't a thing at the time. Do I love it now? I'm not sure, because it's quite cold and it's quite hard, but I like it. Up here's some of my favourite things, really special because they came from my mum when we cleared out her house after my mum and dad passed away, and I kept some of the things that I really loved. So these are her old coffee jugs and a biscuit jar that I remember from my childhood, and another jug. And round the corner, which we can get to again, is a green velvet chair that my dad spent all of his time sitting in, and I've kept that, and he would watch sport on Sunday afternoons or whatever from this green chair. So I love having that there as the memories for them and those inherited pieces. I've got pigeon lights up there. They're a very modern, funky design by, I think I want to say they're Tom Dixon, but I might double check that. But anyway, they were bought in Liberty's department store along when we did up the house 16 years ago. They're harder to get now, but I really love them. They're cool and they're fun, and they add a bit of quirkiness and character to the room without being too dominating, which I think is something that I'd like to say about decorating my home, is that I like to add a little bit of whimsy or a little bit of quirkiness to a room, but not so that it becomes too much, but just so that it draws your eye a little bit, or you notice something as you're going along. So you just add a bit of interest without making a kind of crazy home. I like doing things like that. I've set the table especially for us today because tablescaping is one of the things that I really love to do, and I think it's actually so easy to create a really beautiful table without too much trouble. I haven't even got a tablecloth on here. I was debating it because sometimes I do, but again, I really like the worn patina and the history and the stories that this table tells with the with its patina. It came back with us again from when we lived in Asia, and it's been with us, and we've eaten around it and had Christmas around it for over 20 years. So it's had a lot of love and a lot of life, and if you look closely you can tell. But I love collecting vintage tableware, as you can see from my shelves, and I've put some on here as well. So I like mixing it in. So this is an old Portuguese Bordello Panero cabbage leaf bowl that I found, and this one I'm really pleased about because it had the actual salad servers to go with it, which are really charming and lovely. Although I don't actually let anyone eat out of this one or use the servers ever, but they look nice. Sometimes I'll put lettuce in it. And then I've got French wine glasses, the green-stemmed wine glasses. They're so easy to find, and I think they're so jolly on tables. But a little bit of hunting, they're really not expensive, which is the same. So I mix them in with these pink ones as well. Again, old French, I think from the 60s, 70s, with their pink stems. Again, easy to find and not expensive. Some vintage candle holders. Always little pots of flowers along with fresh flowers. These are my bowls that I recently got from Anthropology, who always do lovely tableware. So I really like mixing the old and new, so you're not overdosing on anything. You've just got a mix of things that you love. I think keeping your colours really simple on a table again, I do. So this one's greens and pinks and then natural colours. And then just doing a tablescape I really love is having candles, both tea lights and of course in candle tapered in their vintage candle holders. And fruit is so simple to just elevate that table space to that different level. So just lemons that are literally falling out of bowls, and almost you just let them roll onto the table to give that really casual effect. Because I guess if I'm having friends for dinner, I want it to be casual. That's kind of how I feel about my house. It's welcoming, it's casual, it's not formal. I'm relaxed, and I really want you to be relaxed. So an abundance of fruit or blueberries here again that are falling overloaded the pots. And again with the tables having the different heights, so you're going up and down, so your eye is drawn all along. And little vases of flowers, pots of flowers, pineapples. Obviously you always need a pineapple on your table. One other thing on the tablescape while we're here is I was talking about colours and keeping it really simple to say two colours like pink and green with some neutrals. But what I really love doing, and I talk about this a lot in my book, is adding a pop of an accent colour. And in my house I use a lot of yellow. So here, that's why I've got the lemons. I always think the yellow here and that the jug as well is that pop of an accent colour, just again to add that bit of interest without being too over the top, but just gives it a little bit of something to look at. And then up here is a collection of, a vintage tea services. There's a couple of amalgamated, a colourful one, and then some old black and gold and cream ones that I've picked up over the years. They aren't used very often, but I really love having vintage tea sets on display. I think they work almost as a painting on a wall in a kitchen. They give you a bit of art. Here is a little tiny weeny block that my friend who's an artist paints. She's called Sarah, she'd love it. But yeah, she painted that specially for me for my birthday, so that's something that I love. And my teapot lights, again, they came when we did the house, and I had that whole thing of looking for things that were stylish and cool and a little bit quirky, but not too over the top. And we spotted these teapot lights, and I thought they would be a really fun addition to the dining room table and to a kitchen, because they capture the essence of English tea drinking, which I do a lot of. Let's go now into what we call the library. This is what we call the library. It actually was a corridor in the house before. In fact, it was a really dark downstairs cloakroom and larder that you couldn't see. So we wanted to open it up because we wanted to get the view from the house into the garden, and also because this hall was really dark, so we wanted to let all the light in. So we did get rid of the two tiny little rooms and made this space, and we didn't know what to do with it. And I think anyone who knows me will know that I absolutely love reading. There are books all over this house. There are books all over my social media channels, always left on sofas or by beds, and I'm always reading. So it was really lovely to have a space to put all my books. So first of all, to the bookshelf design. Those were specially made by a wonderful carpenter friend of ours called Jake. He literally made them and then attached them to the wall. So they've got the lovely cross design that you can see here with so it just makes it a little bit more interesting. And then we followed it round the room. We painted it dark because we wanted it to be a really cosy, comforting space, and the light was filling it from the garden so it could get away with it. Again, the ceiling it's all sort of, it's all black, so or a really dark blue, so it kind of comforting room. Some of my favourite things in here, bookshelves. I really love a bookshelf, and one of my favourite things is styling bookshelves. And I think that people would say that traditionally you have your books on rows, maybe done by alphabetically or theme or something, but I think my husband would say that I never have our books like that. So our bookshelves, I think, are just another way to display things that you love. So these ones are colour-coded. Some people don't like that. I really do. And then interspersed, so you get the sort of 3D-ness of them. So you're looking into them, so you get the depth. So hanging a picture on the front of a bookshelf is one of my absolute favourite things to do. Again, adding some interest, making it into a feature. So there's a couple of pictures, putting ornaments, lights, candles. There you go. And like you can just make a really simple reading nook with a bookcase, a chair, and a little table, and you've just made a really cosy corner for reading, adding a couple of lights or a light and some greenery. But let's talk about some of the things here. And I guess two of my absolute favourite things are this wicker elephant from the 1970s UK and my Paddington bear, both of which I absolutely love. The wicker elephant, I had a search going on eBay for about a year till one came up. It did come up. I drove from London to Brighton to pick him up. I got home and Twiglet, our dog, who was a puppy at the time but is now 13, literally the first thing she did was chew his trunk to pieces. So I decided that to be true to myself, I would have to not mind, because every piece of furniture tells a story, and that was Twiglet's story to the wicker elephant. So I've lived with that ever since. But the second piece is my Paddington bear, who again I found at an antiques market 10, 15 years ago, and I absolutely love him. I started sharing my home in 2019 on social media, and I was talking about this the other day because I was actually 50 when I started it. So I'd been at home, I'd been looking after the children, and I really didn't know what I was going to do, and I knew that I had to do something. And a friend just said, look, you've got a lovely home, why don't you just start posting little snippets of your home on Instagram? And so I did, and I thought I'm just going to commit to this for a month, and I'm going to post every day. And as I did it, I started to get, followers coming in, and I really met people through hashtag challenges at the time. And I really realised that it was something I enjoyed and that people were interested in my house. And so then the pandemic hit, then we were all at home for however long each of us was, and I had loads of time to put more of my house on Instagram, as lots of people did. So it grew from then, and it was then the introduction of Reels and my window in about 2021 that made my account really grow. And that's when I really realised that my Instagram account was becoming not just about a home and little corners of your home and an interior decorating account, but it was actually becoming about a home that made you have feelings and that made you feel calm, and the windows and the seasons changing through the windows along with my furniture was just appealing to people because they had a sense of peace, and those are the messages that I get a lot on my Instagram. So it made me realise how I wanted my home to feel was coming across through my Instagram Reels. So now I have a book coming out in fall. it's called Relaxed Maximalism. I've had the most amazing photographer called Lou Souza, who's worked with me on it, and she has captured this house just absolutely beautifully, and another home that we have by the seaside. And yeah, I guess my book came from my Instagram account and the sense of I really wanted to share how it was that you could put so much of yourself into your home and yet not end up with a cluttered looking mess that was full of stuff, but was a home that was stylish and beautiful and harmonious, and how you could do that through having themes that ran through your home, and how you can mix colours and patterns, and how to bring it all together in a cohesive way so that you can make a home which is of style, not clutter. So this is my study. It's where I spend a lot of time and do my work, and it's where I've just spent the whole of the winter writing my book. I guess that the main feeling that I wanted to create in this room was to echo the outside in the paint colour. So if you look out of the window, it's an incredibly green vista, especially in summer where the fig tree is dominating and the trees to the front. So choosing this green brought that outside in that I talk about and that I love so much, with all the plants that I have around, which we will come on to, and my floral sofas, which you will see one here. But yeah, I do that a lot. It's also, again, colour drenched, so that, I mean, it's such an easy way of decorating, but I think it allows what's in the room to pop, because I paint everything in the same colour. So the window frames, the picture rails, the skirting boards, the fireplace, the back of the door are all in this green. So what I think that does is it makes you draw, you don't lose yourself in the gaps of a white one there where the room seems broken up. Everything is really harmoniously comes together, and then your eye can be drawn to all the things that are in the room. Here we've got old vintage paintings, again, that I've picked up along my journeys from antique fairs, piles of books. Like, I really do just love piles of books. I think they are a really good way of styling rooms. They're just really relaxing to have around. So there's my art propped on piles of books. This round table is an 18th century English table, I believe, which I bought at auction when I was decorating this room, because I really wanted to work at a round table in the middle of the room, which isn't always practical, as you will see, so there is somewhere else too. But I do love sitting at this table and working. If we come to here, you've got my windows, which I rarely have curtains or blinds on, as you'll see. Again, because I just love having the light that comes into the room. And we aren't overlooked here. And one of my many floral sofas, I have 4 at the last count. They're all slightly different. This one, again, is old, vintage, found after many months of searching for the perfect one for this corner. It's quite neutral. And I really do think that floral sofas can be a really neutral thing in a room, as opposed to a sofa which is just a big block of colour. But anyway, I love that. And then my windowsills that you'll see all through my house. I guess I'm really lucky because I've got really wide windowsills. But as opposed to having curtains, I just love filling them with books and plants and the odd lamp. To bring a bit of style and colour to the room. And then on the floor, you've got zebra print rug. I love a bit of zebra print. I think it can be real neutral in a room, and it adds a real character. So yeah, that's my zebra print, which anchors the table in the center of a room. I think a table on a rug is really helpful. I really do like to have things in my rooms to give that warm feeling. So I like bringing the outside in with flowers, and I like having rugs, and I love having my books around. So I do fill my rooms with things like that. And yet it's really easy to get that feeling, if you do that, to be cluttered. So I really think about how I do it. So one way in which I do it is to keep the colours really limited and really simple. So basically, there are 3 colours in this room. There's green, there's the colours picked out of the sofa, the oranges, and then the neutrals. Now you will see pops of red, but that's sort of as an accent. So I try and create a really harmonious feeling by really limiting the colour palette, and also by just never dumping anything there, but actually styling where I put it down. Again, a cupboard that's filled with little pieces that I find on my way to add to my tablescapes, egg cups and little sorbet ice cream cups, plates for Christmas. Again, that's a really pretty vintage cupboard. The globe that my brother gave me for a birthday. But yeah, I think I do try and bring everything into a room to create a sense of warmth. But then the styling of it is crucial, or you will end up cluttered, and keeping the colours really, really simple. Now I'm going to take you to the downstairs cloakroom. This is the downstairs cloakroom. It's the most decorated room in my house, I guess, because it's got a really floral wallpaper on it. But I really love downstairs cloakrooms for that, because they're rooms that you don't tend to spend a lot of time in. So I think they're rooms where you can really go to town with your decorating. So, and they're often quite small, so you can kind of go a bit crazy in them. So this is a floral wallpaper designed by Pearl Lowe, a British celebrity and designer now. It's floral, so obviously I was going to love it because it goes with my floral sofas. It's quite dark, but also what it does is it picks out all the other colours in my house. I've basically found in this wallpaper. So it's kind of the central point that everything flows from, even though it's this tiny little room. So you've got the green in the study room, you've got the blues in the hall, you've got pinks, which you find in the morning room, very light pinks, some neutrals, and the only colour that isn't here is the yellow, but never mind. So yeah, that's this room. The ceiling is painted in black, all the woodwork's painted in black. I never leave white woodwork. I just have a thing about it, so yeah. So this is our TV room, sitting room. It's a room that we use in the evening a lot. Hence, again, it's a really dark, welcoming colour. It's the downpipe colour that everybody seemed to paint their house in about 15 years ago, which I did, and I've never changed it. I think I might, but there is just something I still love about this colour. But wait for it, because one day it might turn light blue. Anyway, yep, again, this is a room that is filled with things that have meaning and feelings and are also styled. So again, the rug was picked up on one of those many trips to Morocco. It's a Beni Urain rug designed by the Hill tribes. The paintings, both of these 2 paintings, we bought back from Vietnam. There's another painting upstairs from there. Again, when we lived in Asia, we spent a lot of time in Hanoi, the city. We loved going there, and it is filled with really amazing artists. So we used to spend hours wandering around the old city, looking for not very expensive art at the time, although it's now got really popular, and haggling and spending our time buying some really beautiful pieces of artwork alongside eating amazing Vietnamese food. So yeah, these paintings both came back from Hanoi, and they're mixed in with a lamp, which is a designer lamp in the UK. So I really do like that. I don't just have old vintage pieces in my home. I really like the mixing of old and new, high street, high-end department store. I think you can get a really lovely balance of all of it. So that light is a nice but expensive lamp. Another floral sofa that you can see, which is from Anthropology. I worked with them on this, so that was nice. Again, my windows are decorated. I've got an African drum here that we use as a table. It makes me realise, as I'm chatting this through, of how much history is in my home and how much I do pick things up and I do buy things as I am going along. So yet again, this table came back with us from when we lived abroad in Singapore. I guess what I love having in sitting rooms is lots and lots of tiny little coffee tables. So if you can see, there's one down there, which is just, they're my favourite sort of tables. You can just plop them anywhere. They're kind of spare tables, occasional tables, and little round ones just popped in front of a sofa with a vase of flowers on, or it's somewhere to put a cup for a cup of tea, or the TV remote control. They just are really easy to find and really easy to pop down anywhere. I love little tables with lamps on. You can see that one over there. Again, that's a vintage lamp, a bit too big for the table. I like the fact it's almost too big for it. But the juxtaposition and just taking up the whole space. I like having loads and loads of lamps in a room. I just don't think you can have too many. And I really love not using the overhead lights too much. So here, our room is just lit by little table lamps, the overhead lamps, and I really try to layer all the lights on coffee tables, windowsills, floor lamps. So your eye, particularly on our very long English winter evenings, the room is just lit by pockets of beautiful warm lights. I really love these patterned lampshades. So I've got this one here and that one there. I have loads of different patterns, and I literally treat my table lamps a bit like fashion objects. So come changing the seasons or changing in the weather, I've got different lampshades that will match all the different lampstands that I've got, and they're like different hats, and I pop them on. So I might put a yellow one on there if the sun's out, or a green one at a different time of day. They're just really simple ways to elevate it. And also I really love fabric lampshades because I think they give, they really add to a pattern. If you're using patterns in a room, they're really easy to intersperse, and also they are just beautiful in themselves. The patterns are, even when the light isn't on, I always think that a little patterned lampshade looks lovely. Actually, as I'm just leaving this room, and I'm going to take you to the next room, and I'm having to weave my way out past the big cushion, what's it called, floor cushion, that we put our feet on at night, and we put trays on. It serves at everything. But one thing I love about rooms, what I'm trying to say, is that I love the fact that you have to weave your way through them, like find little corridors, as it makes them really interesting rooms to be in. So here I am as I weave my way through the sitting room to come out and take you to the next room. So this is what we call our morning room, which is quite a grand name, but that's how it was described in the floor plan and the details when we bought the house. So it's stayed ever since, which actually is quite bizarre because it doesn't get the sun in the morning, but it gets the sun at this time of day. So actually maybe it should be called the late afternoon or evening room. Yeah, this is our everybody's favourite room in the house, I think. It is where everything about my styling, I think, comes together. We've got the famous Instagram window here, which is always peeping out onto the seasons and which gives us blossom in spring, golden autumnal colours in autumn, and this carpet of green in summer. In winter, it rarely gives us snow, but occasionally it will. So that's the window that everyone loves from my Instagram account, with my floral sofa in front of it. I remember buying this floral sofa a really, really long time ago, 15 years ago, and I was absolutely determined to have one. I think I'd seen one somewhere, and I had to really hunt for it, and then I hunted and hunted for the fabric, which is a Sanderson fabric, and which I then had the sofa upholstered in it. And it is such a loved piece of furniture, and it really has become iconic to my house. There is always a blanket, there's always a book, there's usually a dog, but it's too hot for her at the moment, but hopefully she'll come later. There's always someone in front of the window doing something. Again, having a floral sofa, some people I think would worry that it might dominate the room and be hard to mix patterns with, but I find it the opposite. I think that as long as you've got your neutral colours in it, you can put anything on it, and mixing it with lampshades and the other flowers. We use this room all day, every day. And we use it to relax in, as opposed to mostly we don't watch TV in it. Mostly we are sitting on the sofa chatting as a family or with somebody else, or someone is reading, or we are playing backgammon on it. We play cards around this table. We sometimes eat at it. It's a real hub of the house, and I think because it's so connected to the hallway, you never feel like you are on your own in the house. You're always connected to the rest of the house, and I think that's just really lucky to have here. And of course, you know, we literally do sit on this sofa and we really do watch the seasons roll by. You know, that is a highlight of everybody's day. I love having a big coffee table in front of a sofa. This one came back with us from Singapore, surprisingly enough. It's an Indonesian coffee table. I think that they give a real focus to a room. They give you something to walk around. They give you an idea and a way of styling your little objects or things that you love on them. So I always begin styling my coffee table with a couple of piles of books. There's usually a little light, and then some trinkets on coffee tables. Frequently, I think if you are styling a coffee table, you want things in threes and with a colour that matches. So that's almost too big, but 3 on that book, or you've got a 3 next to each other. You want to vary the heights, so you've got tall things and lower things. But basically, if you put things on books, you'll make you'll give the coffee table a sense of solidness. There won't be things floating around in odd places. There's always a cup. There's normally a cup of tea in it. And the rugs, if you look at the rugs in here, I've got a bit of animal print which acts as a neutral, but it's layered on top of a very rusticy, creamy rug with bits of brown in it. And again, I really love layering rugs to add a little bit of texture. And if you get your colours right, so basically these 2 rugs use the same colours, they're just slightly different sizes, and therefore you can add a bit of interest and texture by just popping one on top of the other. There's a really big floral painting on the wall here. That came from an online poster company, and if I'm looking for pieces of art like that, I'll tend to go for the biggest size possible, so that it's the painting itself or the poster that makes the impact. I'm not a fan of gallery walls, dare I say, or lots of little prints all arranged together. I really, really like statement pieces of art, And I think if you're struggling to find a way of putting a gallery wall together, instead just looking online and finding the biggest piece that you can seems to me to solve all those problems. And actually, I think it makes a real statement. So yeah, I really love this, and I love the way it echoes the colours in the rooms. It's, yeah, a really good piece. Again, mixing that modern and brand new with all the vintage art that I have around. I like to include both. All of these tips that I've been talking about, like styling a coffee table, mixing patterns, introducing floral sofas, buying vintage, incorporating different eras and styles of furniture, putting high street and vintage together, are all, including the themes, like the little themes, like bringing nature into your house, a personal touch, a sense of history. Those things are all included in my book, so which is coming out in fall. So if you want to see more, then there is that too. So here is a little secret to this house that I'm about to show you, because next to my window onto the garden is a secret door. Come with me and see. Underneath the shade of the fig tree and amongst the agapanthus is this little secret old Cambodian rain drum with two rickety old chairs, and it's where we sit and have our, don't know, early evening drink or catch some sun in the morning. But it's the most beautiful shaded spot, and it is really at its best at this time of year because the agapanthus are out. It's like our secret garden in the heart of London. So welcome to the landing of our house, which again, for London particularly in a big city, it's just incredible to have such a big space. And again, it's one of those features of the arts and crafts movement when the house was built. But yeah, this little section's like another room in itself. And I really wanted to make a focal point against this wall. So it's really simply done. There's just a rug, an antique bench, and the painting above it. The painting we bought, again, a long time ago when we were in Hanoi in Vietnam, and she is, again, one of those pieces that always makes me smile. I just love her. She's so calm, she's so serene, and I love the colours. And yeah, she is a classic piece of a home to make you smile, finding those pieces that have got a story and a soul and a meaning to them that you love. Yeah, again, I guess the pillows on there are again, an example of pattern mixing, and I think they'd probably be quite a good way to explain how pattern mixing can work, which is, I think if you've got a colour theme, if you can really mix lots of different patterns if you have a thread of colour that goes through each of them. So these cushions are all linked by threads of colour. So you can see in here, the pink comes through, the pink on there, the pink around the butterfly, there's some pink in the parrot, pink round here, pinky purple round here, and onto the purple of that cushion. So all of those cushions, no matter that their patterns are so different, there's leopard print mixed in, there's stripes. And let me come to the black and white stripe, which obviously doesn't have any colour in it. But black and white is really good to have as a neutral in a pattern mix. You can put it in anything and it breaks up the whole array of patterns so it doesn't get too much. But yeah, pattern mixing, if you're wanting to do it, keeping that thread of colour going through. Again, you can see there's a lot of yellow in them, and the yellow reflected in the painting. And that enables you to just keep the harmony when you are mixing your patterns. So here we are in the bedroom, which is a really beautiful light-filled room. And it's painted in a old Farrow and Ball archive colour, which is got a great name. It's called Potted Shrimp. and it really does change colour with the light, and it can be very shrimp-like in the darker lights. One of the things I love most about this room is the really flimsy, whimsical linen mixed curtains that I have that blow in the breeze, and on Instagram lots of people ask after them, and they are truly magical. They really do let in light and breeze, but they don't actually work as curtains, let's be clear on that. So behind them I always have a blackout blind, so that actually does the job of a curtain, and the linen blend mix curtains just look pretty and float in the wind. I've got an antique mirror here which came from France. I bought it, there's a really lovely little company near to us who do summer shows and autumn shows called Fabulous Vintage Finds, and they go to France every year and pick up loads of stuff. So the mirror and in fact the little desk both came from there at one of their summer fairs or artist open houses, as did the little bench, stool. And yeah, again, the floral theme continues onto my bed cover and my bedding with little cushions, again, mixing and matching patterns, the stripes with the florals, or turning over my cushions and adding a bit of yellow to with a flower. Again, the windowsills filled with books and flowers and pots of things that are growing. I just have such an obsession with having, bringing that outside in and really creating a calm and natural feeling room. And the curtain is blowing. Yeah, again, patterned lampshades, a little chair. The mirror is absolutely beautiful, but try doing your makeup in it, and all the time you realise that buying really old vintage patterned things comes at a cost, because you can't actually see yourself. So I have to go to my daughter's room to do anything like that, but I wouldn't swap it for the world. When I'm thinking about decorating a bedroom, it's really interesting, because I think some people decorate bedrooms for nighttime. They go, you want a really dark, cocooning room because when you're going into it, you're sleeping, so you are winding down for sleep. Other people might decorate it for daytime, but I kind of look at a bedroom and think, I'm going to decorate this bedroom for a Sunday morning lie-in, because that is my favourite time of the day. And even if I only get that once a week or sometimes never, just that feeling that it gives me. So it's got a beautiful warm pink on the walls to give it that sense of warmth and harmony, and yet it's still light and bright to give you the sense of it's daytime, you're not cocooned. So I guess I think, yeah, when I'm designing my bedrooms, I always think about that vibe of when I really love being in it. And I think being with my book on a Sunday, having a lie-in with a cup of coffee and a croissant, and the breeze blowing and the curtain blowing is the way that I really love my bedrooms to feel. Home to me is a place which is about feelings. A house is the structure that's made of bricks and woodwork. It's a place to be decorated. But a home is somewhere that has that sense of je ne sais quoi, that vibe, that feeling where you're sitting in a room and it feels like it's a part of you, because it's got your stories, your history, your connections in it, the things that you've chosen. And it might be that you walk into a room and you know exactly how the light falls in that room at that particular moment in the day, and you think that's where you're going to have your cup of tea. Or the patterns that you've chosen are the patterns that you've put together over time, and with the sense of history that comes with it. That's a home. It's all about the person who's created it and the people that are in it and the feeling that that creates.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Katherine and we're here in West London. Welcome into my home.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
I'm Katherine Ormerod and I'm a writer, and we're here in my home in West London. My route to this home was quite long-winded. We were basically kicked out of our last rental that we were living in as a family. The rent was hiked by over 65%, and you have that sinking feeling when the email comes in and you're like, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to make this work. Okay, we got to go and find another spot for ourselves. The kind of difficult part is my eldest kid is now in school, so you have to keep obviously within some kind of catchment area to, within close walking distance ideally to the school. So this was actually the 11th property that I put a rental offer on, and all of the others I was outbid. Lots of them were going to sealed bids, last and final offers for rentals, because that's kind of what the culture has been increasingly like here in the rental market here in London. And when we finally got the yes for this property, it was such a relief, it really was. And it wasn't perfect, it wasn't the ideal property, but that to me is always the opportunity. So I was really excited to see what I could do with this one. First up, when you walk into my home, you are in the hallway here. And this was a little bit of a labour of love. I replaced all of the wallpaper. This is my first actual proper wallpaper job I've ever done, and I've been told that it's quite ambitious to do one up the stairs, but it was actually quite manageable because you're obviously going from the skirting board to the dado, so it wasn't too bad. I would absolutely suggest someone does it. The paper here is the 2.55 Chanel handbag of wallpaper. It is Willow Boughs by William Morris, and one of the reasons that I chose it is actually William Morris was very active in the area. He set up the Hammersmith Socialist Charter just down the road, and there's a home in walking distance from me, Emery Walker House, which has been kept entirely in situ, and it's top to bottom William Morris wallpaper, and they actually have willow boughs in their entryway as well. And as this home was built at the same time, it felt like a really nice way of bringing some local heritage into the space. And then this colour, it's called Thames Reed. It's also by Morris & Co. It's really nice. It's a lovely, lovely matte. I would say that it's not entirely kid friendly, but I'm always there retouching here and there. And then the final thing I did here is I put this little coat hanger, and we've got a bench, and the kids can just kick all of their shoes into the buckets. If I lived on my own, it would probably be slightly more elevated, but I live with two boys, so that's that. That's everything there. So let's move on into my sitting room. So this is my sitting room. I started off by totally repainting it. Before it was kind of like a magnolia colour. I think you get that in a lot of rentals, and I just wanted something a little more soothing. Here there were lots and lots of very old-fashioned shelving in brackets with metal brackets with the shelving, so I took those down. I popped these floating ones up. Some annoying things as a renter. So I got here, the curtains were that much too short, but I added this really cute ticking border, and I really like the way it looks. I kind of feel that it brings the green into the rest of the room. And then really this room was about artwork. This piece here is by an artist called Ali Bassett, and my eldest son, actually, his first name is Hector. We call him Gray, but his first name is Hector. So when I bought it, I was like, this is going to be an amazing family heirloom. And this piece, which I love, by a Brazilian artist called Aileen Gaiad, is actually a rental. So I don't know if you've heard about this, but basically you pay a certain amount per month, and then every 10 weeks it gets changed. So I'm renting this piece here. Quite tricky because it looks absolutely perfect. So I obviously now really want it. Maybe that's how they do it, try before you buy type thing. And then really, like with all the rooms, this is a space for my collections. I love things, objets, and I pick them up everywhere. So I spend my weekends thrifting, going to antiques markets. We have lots and lots of charity shops on the high road close to here, and I go like most days. Okay, so this piece was sourced by a journalist friend of mine from about 15 years ago, and she now lives out in the Cotswolds and has this amazing service where she goes and rummages around all these brocantes in France and in Europe, and she comes back with the most amazing bits and bobs, and then she sells them on Instagram. It goes up and people bid, and I got this one. I absolutely love it. It's the perfect colour, and it's such a good example of, you could go into West Elm and get some kind of approximation of this, and then you and 6,000 other people would have that on your shelf. Only I've got this one. That's why I love it. So that's generally my vibe. So when it comes to objects, I look everywhere. And this, it's amazing. It's a little matchbox. It was put together by one of my friends, Alexandra Stedman, and she worked with an artist who, Frances Costello. I have another piece of her work in the home. And I know it's obviously meant to be functional and practical, but I use it as like a little objet on my shelves because I just love it. I love the colour, I love the little pattern, and one day maybe I'll frame it in like a small little frame, but for now it just sits there. This fireplace, when we arrived, underneath these tiles are like smashed tiles. And like day 2, I found my at the time 18-month-old child with pieces of tile in his mouth. I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Child-proofing to the nth degree. And I did try and remove them myself, but it didn't go so well. So instead, I've just laid these beautiful tiles on top. It isn't my best hack, I will be honest about it, but at least my kids can't cause some kind of poison danger to themselves, and I do like the way it looks. And in the winter I fill it with candles. It actually is a working fireplace, but these days it's somewhat frowned upon to use them, so we're not using it, but I fill it with candles, and it creates such a warm and gorgeous glow. I love it. It's lovely. So this is one of those you must not do that things. And I've done it. Layering rugs on top of carpet. So we have a particular type of carpet in the UK in rentals. And this one's actually okay because it's like a beige colour, but normally they're this kind of grey silver. And the reason we have it isn't aesthetic. It's one of the best ways to combat moths. So it's firstly cheap, and secondly, it really helps landlords stop, vermin or whatever, pests in the house. So you get a lot of carpets in rentals in the UK, sometimes carpeted bathrooms, it is everywhere. It's much easier for landlords to keep carpets going than wooden floorboards, for example, which require a lot more effort. But that's a big difference between London and Paris. In Paris, nowhere is carpeted. It's all original wood floors, and you put your rug down and it looks so chic. Here we're oh my God, we've got the silver carpet to deal with. But anyway, that's why I always do large scale rugs. I don't really care what anyone says if it's wrong for, interior rules or something. I think it looks good. This rug is honestly about 8 years old, but I'm not going to recommend it because for about 4 of them, it created so many dust bunnies in the corner. This is a real one, it's made of wool. I've ended up buying a totally synthetic one for the bedroom, which is, similar look, and I much prefer it. I would always recommend the synthetic one, which, it doesn't feel quite right, but it doesn't completely send you into working for a Hoover life, picking up dust bunnies from every single corner. I really love this table. I think it's so beautiful. It's by one of the most prominent designers called Tom Dixon, and I really love it. I love a round table in general. Again, because if you have loads of people in this room, which I often do, if it's me, it's girlfriends. If it's my partner, it's a wee golf session, but it means that everyone can have a pizza in the middle and you all just sit on cushions around. You know, these spaces, it's not necessarily about everything being formal or perfect. And as much as I love a tablescape, and I mean, I really love a tablescape, I love the idea that you have this like more relaxed space where everyone just comes together. And if it's in front of the TV to watch a game, that's fine too. Let's go through the breakfast room. So these are original doors to the house, but no glass. Obviously somewhere down the line the glass is shattered and it hasn't been replaced. And it's one of the things that I dream of. I think this is one of the things, right? You're a renter. You look at a space and you think, oh my God, what would I do? And part of it is finding that acceptance that there are some things which probably you should not do. And I think replacing and restoring these doors unfortunately falls under that remit. But anyway, come on in. Really struggled with this room. I've kind of had a couple of iterations already, but I feel like we're just about here. This is a really, really beautiful 1950s reclaimed French table with like matching chairs that have the, you know, very similar design here. What I love about vintage for a rental and vintage when you've got kids is that it's already pre-worn in. You know, it isn't pristine. If one of my kids like knocks it or takes a chip out of it, like it's just adding to the history and charm of it. It's survived so much. It's 70 years old and now here it is in, you know, a West London family home. So, you know, it's tough when you've got furniture and you're going to be putting it into the back of a van and it might be moving here and it might be going to a storage facility or whatever. I always feel with vintage like you don't have much anxiety about that because, you know, anything that happens to it is really just part of the story. So that's the table and chairs. Here, this is an IKEA number and I have painted the scallop onto it. I always think with things like this, if it's not in constant use, you don't have to worry too much about scrapes. This is actually just a tester pot of emulsion. Like it's not even fancy special paint. But yeah, I think it really adds something to the room and then it reflects. I don't know if you can see here, but I've got these scallop shelves. So I loved this hatchway when I first saw the home. It was like the number one thing I loved. And I could immediately see what I was going to do with it. And it's split into two colours. So this side is the green and the other side is the blue. I added, this is like one of my favourite things that I do is adding these trims. So upstairs in my kids' room, there are zigzags. Here we've got scallops, you know, this wavy one. I've got actual proper scallops as well. And it just adds that, you know, personal touch to something which is quite functional. And I am, again, a big collector of ceramics. Some of them I've bought, some of them I've made myself. These are some of my bowls. So I like throwing, doing my own ceramics. So that's really great. What else have I made in here? Nothing else I've made, but this is an IKEA cabinet and it is definitely 10 years old now and it has come everywhere with me. And honestly, lots of times I've thought maybe I should upgrade my cocktail cabinet, but there is no cabinet in this world that will be able to take the amount of glassware and booze that this one does. It's like the TARDIS, honestly. It's got about 50 bottles in it, probably 150 glasses or something, and it continues to do its job. I do have like anxious nightmares sometimes though that maybe the first shelf will go and it will all just end up broken, but you know, 10 years, it's not too bad. So yeah, that's a favourite. And then this piece here is a gorgeous piece by Alexandria Co. My boyfriend actually bought it, fiance. Oh, I mean, what do I call him? We're getting married at some point. But he bought this for me for my birthday during lockdown. And I was really heavily pregnant. And I just love it. I particularly love the colour. It's quite unusual for Alexandria Co's. Most of hers are in blues or different colours, but this green, I feel like it's the green of my palette. It's really funny, you know, as if I have my own personal palette, but there are colours that just speak to me and I feel like I will reproduce them in every home that I live in, and that is my green. So this green on the walls is exactly the same in the entryway, and I love that conceptually, that idea that you walk through a home and even though the rooms are different, there's some kind of red thread that pulls it together. So in the room that we're about to go into, my kitchen, I'm just telling you that, but in that room there's quite a lot of terracotta, so I brought the terracotta in here. But this green is reflected in that room. So as you walk through, there are shades that you're picking up that kind of tell a story, even though the rooms themselves have totally different palettes and different feels. These are very cheap woven storage baskets, and inside you'll find all sorts of kids' rubbish. I mean, storage when you have children is the number one thing. Lots and lots of people ask me how my house is so tidy. And there's only one answer. It's all stashed in boxes and hidden. I mean, it all still exists, obviously, but this is where we keep like all the colouring things. And then they have chests in their own room for toys and so on and so forth. And it's that idea that they go to bed, you scoop it all up like this, throw it in, close it. Never existed. You know, adult time now. All right, so let's do it. Let's go to the kitchen. This is one of my favourites. Now, it's sometimes a little dark, so we might have to turn a light on. Welcome to my kitchen. It obviously suffers from a limited light supply. It's bright for about 45 minutes a day. We just have this little one window. So I was like, what are we going to do? We've got to lean into that, haven't we? So I decided that I was going to make these cabinets dark and moody. The before and the after of this room are quite profound, let's say. So underneath all of this is a very old IKEA, I think, maybe IKEA kitchen. But it was laminate, it was veneered, it was really, really tired. And then when you open it, the carcass is an entirely other, even older kitchen. So to say it was like on its last legs is probably, you know, a good estimation. And they were completely flat. And what I like generally, everywhere I am, is to have texture. The way I started was cutting all of these strips and firstly creating like a shaker style to each of them, and they're all just glued on with laminate glue. And then on top of it I use Rust-Oleum. I think it's called Evening Blue or Midnight Blue, but it's a particular kitchen cabinet paint, and you don't need to prime, you don't need to do anything special. It's completely made to just go straight on to laminate, and it has done so well. This is just 2 coats. It hasn't chipped, nothing bad has happened to it. I then added all of the hardware by a really lovely independent British brand called Plank. And yeah, I mean, it took me some time, I am not going to lie. I then built in the IKEA island here. So that's the same thing. I just slightly sanded it down because it had quite a shine to it, but then used the kitchen cabinet paint again, and it did really well. This is a well-known IKEA little stool. The rug is from Ruggable, so washable as well, which is wonderful and required. And then obviously the biggest story in this kitchen is vinyl. So I have wrapped in vinyl the work surfaces, I've wrapped the white goods, I've wrapped the fridge, and then these are tile stickers. So they've got this kind of like Portuguese-y feeling, and I really love it. I love this room so much. I then finally, at the other end of the room, I've added a radiator cover, which is something you'll see in lots of the rooms that I have in this home. They're the same radiator cover. I would have made these, but honestly, I couldn't have made them as cheap as I could buy them. And then they're paint your own. And it's another really great way of bringing colour into a rental, because obviously that is actually quite a large scale piece in the room, but you can pull it away immediately. It's entirely temporary. But yeah, it's another great way. If you're not going to paint furniture, you can paint things like that to bring in colour. And then, of course, with everything, it's then layering in for me some textiles. So I made these cute little gingham curtains, and then these matching gingham ruffled cushions, these sweet little things. I love that. I actually probably would have done like skirts all along here, but the white goods stick out too much, so I couldn't. What else have I done? Oh, I hung these shelves. Now these shelves again, they're a really nice selection of, you know, lots of my bits and bobs. These are all charity shop finds. I love them. It's so nice to put collections like that together to create an additional layer to your palette. And then these are really fun artwork. So again, when people ask me how to buy art, one of my personal ways of doing it is grouping pieces. So this is my bathers selection. My son calls it the bums selection because there are a few bums in there. Yeah, there's a piece by the artist I mentioned before, Francis Costello, a couple of pieces of Hockney. This is a Jürgen Teller photograph of Sofia Coppola, and then there's a Grey Marlin piece here. And whenever I come in here, I'm always like, oh, it feels like a holiday or something. And then the final really, really cool thing that I did here is when we arrived, this beam was like painted like pub black brown. And instead of, I absolutely hated it, but instead of removing all the colour, what I actually did is I painted it like a French cream colour, and then I used a polish on top to bring out the grain. So now what you get as an effect is a completely lighter wood, but actually it's just been painted white with some furniture polish on. Probably if you like rubbed your hand too vigorously across it, you might end up with a bit of a brown palm, but you know, we don't do that. It's out of my reach, fortunately. So for anyone that was interested in what those other glass-free doors look like, this is what it should look like. This is really, you know, typical of all of the homes in this kind of area. So they all have these original doors with these original glass. Some of them are blue and red, but we've got the green and red in this house. So this piece of art, this is like a classic millennial on the internet story. One of my girlfriends went to an Airbnb in Portugal and took a picture of herself and a child in front of a piece of art. And I was like, I need that piece of art. So I hunted it down and I found it in a gallery in Stockholm and I got it delivered to me. And it means a big love is enough, a grand love is enough. And I think, do you know what? Probably love is all we need. I remember like my nan having plates on the wall and thinking that it was super, super twee. Round circle, obviously. Now here we are, I'm doing the same thing. So these two plates are by a ceramicist called Harley Brown. She does these amazing squiggle cups and jugs that I really, really love. And I love the way they look, they're really fun. And this is a piece by the Conran store, which I just felt colour-wise was so perfect for the space. But these are the kinds of things that I would change up quite a lot. They've got a really cool plate sticker on the back. I don't know if you've ever heard of these, but you make them gummy just with some water and you put them on the back, leave them overnight, and they completely stick to the back of the plate. And then you just immerse them in warm water and then it comes off. So it means 100% you're not going to ruin your plate or smash your plate or anything like that. That one's got that on. These ones have got like claw ones. It's amazing how many different ways there are to hang a plate on your wall. So the pièce de résistance in this room, we started off when we first moved here with a very strange bathroom off the side of our kitchen. Now, this is because the owner, our landlord, is an elderly gentleman, and when his mobility became compromised, he had a downstairs wet room put on, so obviously he wouldn't have to go up the stairs. But obviously, it's quite a strange place to have a bathroom right here. So we weren't really sure what to do with like a shower, and probably for about a year, it was just used as like a store of rubbish, boxes, scooters, my bike maybe sometimes. And then one day I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I've got young kids. It would be so useful to have a downstairs bathroom. So I thought, what am I going to do? And my plan was that I was going to bring the same sticker tile and put it in there. What I hadn't really factored in was that there are 420 tiles. So wait a second, you're going to see what it looks like. Ta-da! I like to think of this as my Lisbon bathroom. Each and every single one of these is a sticker. It took me a really, really long time to do it. And of course it's quite an unusual shape, so each of the tile stickers has been cut to size as well. I feel like this has been like a little love letter to myself, this room, because it was actually quite expensive to buy this many stickers. But I love it, and it has proven so invaluable. There's a tiny little sink here which my kids can use to wash their hands. They don't have to run upstairs with their muddy shoes. They can, you know, it's just very practical and very useful. And I love the fact that there was already this terracotta shade in here on both the floor and in the border there. So yeah, it kind of linked so well into the kitchen. And then I made this quite silly little cafe curtain here. It's out of fabric, and actually I made a couple of them. They're like, so I can twist it up per season. But yeah, I just think it again adds that kind of charm, that quaintness to what could have otherwise been quite a municipal space. Okay, next up we're going to the dining room. Come with me. So this is our, I guess, more formal dining room, which kind of seems like we've got two dining rooms, but actually I use it for entertaining and it is my office. This is where I work. I take all my calls here. I like my Zoom background. And it's a really lovely, calm place to be. You can see out to the road. But again, in the evening, you kind of pull the curtains, you put the record player on, and it turns into a perfect little evening spot. Now we can fit 8 people around the table, and sometimes we pull up a couple of stools and shove in another 2, and there are 10 of us. And it's such a gorgeous, gorgeous space. I love being in here. Again, this was painted magnolia, so I repainted the whole thing. And then the majority of these pictures are all held up with command strips. I'm sure you guys have heard of command strips, but they're basically like sticky Velcro. And yeah, aside from that one, which is actually glass and really heavy, and I have made a small hole, which I will be refilling and doing all of my duty around that. Yeah, these are all stuck with stickers, basically. What can I tell you? So in here, this piece of furniture we received third hand. It was once in the Thomas Pink store in Mayfair. It went to someone else. It is now in our home. These lampshades are so gorgeous. They are made in a collaboration with my friend Eleanor, and her Instagram handle is A Considered Space, and it was made in collaboration with a maker called Munro Kerr. And these wavy colours, I absolutely love them. And what I did was then colour matched some paint to paint the base. These bases are from Pookie, and they're DIY paint yourself ones, but then obviously you can get the exact perfect match. So these chairs I collected over the space of about 2.5 years. So they're classic Eames chairs, nothing to write home about. I love that they're black on black with the black maple legs. But actually what's special is I couldn't afford them. So each of them was bought one by one in different circumstances, so they don't match. There are a couple that are Herman Millers, so they came from the States because that's who has the franchise in America. The others are Vitra. A couple are slightly lower, so I always avoid those at dinner parties. I'm short enough as it is. And I got a couple from Auction House in Darlington in the north of England. The 2 end ones I got on an end of season sale at the Cornrow store. This one is like a 1970s, and it actually isn't as black as I thought it was when it arrived. I was like, oh no, but actually what I love about this story is that it's not perfect. There is no other family in the world with this configuration of 8 chairs. It tells the story of our family. It tells the story of someone, i.e. me, who was not going to give up. Even though she couldn't afford what she wanted, she made it happen. And I just love the idea that there can be beauty beyond, I want these 8 chairs, I'm going to go and buy them on the internet and they all arrive at once. Instead, it's a whole story of us making it as, you know, a young couple in London. And yeah, I love them, I really do. This is the only thing that I paid someone to help me with because it was so high up and I just wasn't confident in doing the electrics with this piece. It is an iconic piece, again by the designer Tom Dixon. It's called the Melt Lamp, and I got it in this bronzy colour. And when you see it on, it's like a volcano. It's got flames and you're sat there at a dinner party at the table and it's got this amazing, it creates such amazing ambience. So I absolutely adore that. And then this table is a Soho home piece, but I got it from eBay for 40% of its cost, RRP, and it's still in store now. That's a winner. You know, I feel pretty good about that. That was a really good purchase. Then what you'll see kind of dominating this room are these two really large scale tapestries. So when you rent, large scale artworks are so tricky, obviously, because, you know, it's heavy and expensive and all of those things. So what I did was I made two really large scale frames, which cost me like £20 to make. And then I stretched blankets across them. So this one's from Slow Down Studio, and this one is a blanket by an artist called Lucy Tiffany. But most people would have them, like, I guess, on the side of their sofa or something like that. But actually, when you stretch them and mount them like this, it's something like 180 by 2 meters, and they're so light, they're so easily transportable. You just obviously cover them, you know, with something, another blanket, and then you can just put them in the back of a van and off you go. I've just noticed this. Story of my house, there's always a tool somewhere. But yeah, haven't quite tied it up well enough there, but we'll hide it again. Probably not ideal with young children again. Be moving that this evening. But yeah, I love these large scale tapestries, and I've actually made them for a couple of friends now. But yeah, is a really great way to go as a renter. And then finally, I guess it's this little area. I don't know if you can see, but I haven't quite planted my geraniums yet. They're in the window box waiting. There's always a job to do. But anyway, I made this window seat cushion. I ordered the foam online, and then I got this really lovely boucle. And for whatever reason, I was like, this needs some kind of piping to pull in. So I added this terracotta piping into the story, and then I just made these really cute little cafe curtain style curtains out of some French linen. But again, this is a really lovely spot. Like if I'm sitting and I want to read, or I'm just taking a little moment, I'll sit up here, I'll light a candle, and it feels so gorgeous to have the light right there. Yeah, it's one of my favorite spots. So for all the viewers across the world here, the rental situation in the UK is quite unusual. We are a home-owning country, and especially when you have your family, it's very much seen as a badge of adulthood. But obviously, the tectonic plates of social and financial situations for all of us in our generation have been shifting at breakneck speed. And, you know, so many of us, so many of my generational cohort no longer are able to buy a home. There's a wild statistic that it's something like 350% more 35 to 45-year-olds are now in rental accommodation than they were in 1993. So you can see how quickly the situation has changed. And one of the strange quirks of the culture here is that it's very much seen that you wouldn't touch a rental, like you wouldn't do anything to it. You move in and it is your landlord's responsibility to do everything. And I guess the relationship is quite adversarial between landlords and tenants in general. It's always someone trying to get something up on. There's a lot of distrust, let's just say. And I, however, was born in Munich in Germany, and that is a very, very different rental culture. And my dad lived in a rental property for over 25 years, and he put parquet flooring in and his own kitchen, and he had an amazing relationship with his landlady. So I really wanted to try and bring a little bit of that attitude to our situation here. So when I look for rentals, and when I was recently looking for rentals for this property, I put together a whole proposal for prospective landlords of what I would like to do for their properties. So what I look for in rental properties is not the ones that are perfect and have just been done up and are pristine and polished and top of the market. I look at the ones that have been overlooked by everybody else, basically, because I see that as an opportunity to create this mutually beneficial situation for the landlord, who will get the opportunity to have their house refreshed, and for me to put a bit more of a personal stamp on it. Now, I started showing everyone on my social media what I was doing, and the messages were wild. Like, people said that I was a mug, that I was lining my landlord's pockets, I'm already paying his mortgage, why am I making the value of his property go up? Like, there's a lot of negativity, I feel, to making these kind of changes. But ultimately, my retort is always the same. Like, my life is now. Like, I am not waiting to live until I can afford a deposit. Like, my eldest child is 6. This is his childhood bedroom, you know. It's not going to be in 10 or 15 years' time if that's how long it takes for me to get on the property market. So I'm going to make this the very best I possibly can. I'm not saying it's perfect or it's the ideal scenario, but I'm going to make the lemonade. So in order to do that, obviously, you don't want to be spending a lot of money on labour when it isn't your property. You have got to balance out the two competing issues, that it's an investment that maybe in 3 years' time will no longer be reaping you any dividends, but equally those 3 years is a good section of your life. So in order to kind of square that circle, I decided that I was going to do all the work, like literally all the work myself. So I've painted every single room in this house. I've done light plumbing, wallpapering, you know, made curtains for every single window. I've made them myself. I've decorated everything. Everything you see in this house, I've either handmade or hacked. There's a lot of mixture of different things, I would say. And I guess a lot of that comes from my background in fashion. I've been a fashion journalist, you know, for years and years back. I still work freelance as a fashion journalist. And I was on magazines for nearly 10 years. And that really instilled in me this understanding of the high-low approach. Welcome in. This is our guest room. This was the room that I fought so hard to find a property with a space, and it's wild. Like, we were looking at 2 to 3 bedroom flats that cost the same as this, but we slightly shifted the location and got this extra space. But this for me is so fundamental. Both of my parents live abroad. My mum's in France and my dad's in Germany, and my brother lives out of town, and my partner, his mother, is also a long way away over in Norfolk. So if we want to have the family together, it's so nice to be able to have this space. This is my favourite, I guess my favourite asset of this property, that we have this extra bedroom. So what did I do? We've got another radiator cover here in the same blue that we've got downstairs with those wavy lampshades. So again, you see where I'm coming from. It's the mimicking of the colours. Now this is a IKEA Stockholm mirror. I'm sure you've seen many of them around. It was originally in the walnut colour and then I made it stripy, so that's super cute. This is an IKEA Pax. You may have heard of it. But I jigsawed out the sides and then stapled behind with all of this rattan to create something with a little bit more texture. This room has got a lot of texture to it. There's lots of baskets and dried flowers, and that's kind of like the feeling that I wanted to evoke. Then this bed, it's a high street bed. I think it like cost maybe £300, but I then reupholstered it. So I reupholstered the headboards and the sides in this ticking fabric. Now ticking is, as you guys probably know, generally used for mattresses. It's a cheap fabric, but it's super, super durable and great for upholstery. And I'm a big fan of, you know, stripes anyway. So what I ended up then doing is making curtains to match. So we've got the ticking curtains, and I think that again, it was about £15 a metre. It was really, really affordable. These are some IKEA shelves, Mosslander, I believe its name is. And then again, it's the arrangement of special bits. These two pieces are by one of my favourite artists, Lucy Mahone, and this is by Wilmian Bardwell. And I love her work too. What else have we got? Oh, this gorgeous piece by Letitia. My main passion in life is pasta. I mean, it's not a lie. I love making these little padded hangers for people. So when you have guests to stay, they've got a little place to hang their things. We have this little hanger here. So even if you're overnight and you've got a lovely dress to wear for a night out, you've got your padded hanger, put it there. It's all those little things. It's like, you know, the water glass and jug and all of the little special things that make it feel like a home from home, an empty, I try and keep it empty, an empty chest here so people can put their stuff in. What else? These are another 3 lovely pieces of artwork. This piece is by my friend James, who is the godfather to my eldest son, James Parkinson. This is another piece by Lucy Mahone, and this is a poster by a lady called Carolina. I can't remember her surname, but yeah, that's the great thing about art. You can frame anything, you know, and I love that you can have a selection of pieces, some of which are higher value and some are literally just a postcard. But what I particularly love about this room is I haven't painted it. As you can see, it's optic white. And it was the only room in the house that wasn't magnolia when we got here. So I was like, I'm not going to repaint a well-painted room. And I do think there's something when you come to stay somewhere about it looking very bright and clean. So that's why I wanted to do that. I generally keep white bed linen on the bed as well, and it gives it that kind of hotel-y feel. The other thing I love about this room is that it's mostly high street, low-end stores. So there's a lot of IKEA. The bed is Any Day by John Lewis. The side little trays are by Habitat. The lamp bases, I think, were like £20 from Dunelm. I love sometimes putting a really tight budget on things. I mean, I don't love it. That's a lie. I just lied to you. I don't love it. I want to spend all the money on all the nice things all the time. But what I actually find is quite often when you have a budget constraint, the result can end up being better. And I think that's because it makes you more ingenious and innovative in the way that you use your cash. So, you know, that's the upholstery. I would never have thought that I could upholster a bed before this room, but apparently I can, and it looks great. It's held up for 3 years, so you know, this is done okay. It kind of pushes you to use skills and find new ways to do things. This is the space that we have probably the most family time in. We do a lot of playing and a lot of, you know, just making things, building things, crafts and bricks, and, you know, I've got 2 boys. It's a lot of construction vehicles. So yeah, I love this room. So obviously this is quite a bold colour choice for a rental, and I was really thrilled that my landlord signed it off. The one pro is that when I'm repainting it, if I have to repaint it and they decide they want me to, it's only like half of the wall to paint over. But yeah, you know, I love this room. Again, we've got another radiator cover in here that brings a lot of colour in. And above the cover, we've got these fun papier-mâché faces that I made with my kids. Mostly I made them, but they're really, really cute. Again, we've got some ticking curtains in this room. I made a bit of a mistake with these curtains. They're not quite long enough. It does really annoy me, but at some point I will deal with it. You know, that's the other thing I always say to people. Like, if you're going to be making things and building things, like, mistakes, they happen. They happen to professionals. You can't get too upset about it or be like, well, I did this one time and I made a hole in my wall or whatever. Like, mistakes happen. It's annoying that it's costly, but it is also the cost of gaining experience and learning a skill. And that you just have to take it on the head, have a little scream into a corner, and then go back and come up with a solution. So the solution for this will obviously be, well, I'm going to make another border, and, you know, another trim like I have downstairs, but I'll get to it at some point. So here again, I did built-in shelves. A couple of the trims that I've attached are slightly wonky, but what are you going to do? It stands up and it's safe. That's enough. I think when you've got kids, one of the best things you can possibly do is use storage vertically, because it then clears like a floor as a play space. So you can have lots of these kind of like chests and things around, but one of the best things you can do is like go up. So that's what I've done here. And then he's got these bunk beds, and these bunk beds, oh my God, he slept on the floor for 3 months nearly to persuade me to get them for him. He was like, I need a big boy bed, I need this bed, da la la. And now he does his best to sleep in my bed, to sleep in the spare bed, all of that. But ultimately he has this space, and hopefully at some point his younger brother will join him in here and we'll think of another use for the smaller bedroom if we're still living here. But for now, this to me is like a vital piece of the story for us, because if we were to have to move into a 3-bedroom home, we would still be able to have the spare bedroom for guests to stay. So, you know, I love this piece of furniture a lot. I also wanted to make it kind of feel like an art gallery here. So there are some really lovely pictures and paintings here. I always think with kids, as much as like the cutesy kind of like kid art is fun and all, there's also so much like actual art that is kid friendly. We spend a lot of time at galleries here. It's one of the things that we like to do together. So, you know, bringing classics in, the Rothko that we've got here, all of these different pieces. And then this piece here is really special, and we've had this in a couple of our rental properties, and it's a screen print done by a collaborative effort between a father and son called Woodism, and Woody himself has actually signed it. And Woody's autistic, and he comes out with some of the most profound statements. This one says, I love you all the way to the end of counting, which is such a lovely statement. And then his dad creates these really nice graphic pieces, and some of the, you know, the sales go towards autism recognition and research. So yeah, it's a really lovely piece, and I always love having that here. And then yeah, it's just, as with everything, these pieces that come from all over the world, these 2 little like baskets, animal baskets, they came from Oaxaca, I think. One of the boys' godfathers brought them back from a trip. There are, you know, things that we've picked up. This it's a postcard that I picked up in Cape Town on a trip years and years ago. You know, these, I believe these originate in Japan. We do a lot of these kind of like paper art things, and the best ones get to go up. And then probably my favourite thing to play with in here is this little mouse castle. I don't know if you guys have them in the States. It's by a brand called Melig, and it's super cute. And I love how both my boys love it so much, even though I guess like doll's housey things are seen as quite feminine, I guess. But yeah, we love playing all different kind of role play with it, and I love the idea that they're getting some kind of like decor aesthetic education. And we talk about, oh, look at the tiles in there and look at the stripes, and then we make things together to go in it, and it's such a cute little thing to have together. I guess the overall feeling and the general feeling that I want to put out there for all renters is like, perfection isn't everything. You know, better than what it was is still better than what it was. It's great. And I personally like imperfect aesthetic. I think it feels more homely, more gemütlich, as we would say in Germany, and welcoming. No one's going to be stressed about sitting on any of my chairs in this home. You know, it's a very welcoming and convivial place to be, and I host and do a lot of entertaining here. I have people stay over a lot, sometimes for multiple weeks at a time. And okay, the wall quality is not good. Some of the new paintwork that I've done is peeling away. There are random wires around door frames. some strange electrical quirks, all of the things that you would expect in a rental, it's all here. But I hope by the way that I've decorated it, it makes it all feel holistic and not like, oh my gosh, that's so run down and miserable and sad. I kind of like bedded it into the aesthetic of the whole thing. Final room for us to go and have a look at. It's the main bedroom. It's where I lay my head at night. Welcome in. We are in an island hotel room. Something somewhat Caribbean about it. That was the intention anyway. I had an amazing trip with a girlfriend. We wanted to see each other. She lives in Los Angeles, I'm here in London, and we were like, where could we possibly meet? And it ended up being Barbados, and it was, you know, a trip of my life. It was wonderful, and I'd never been anywhere like it. And when I came home, I was like, that feeling that I had there is what I want to recreate here. So we've got the palm fabrics here. This is fabric by a British textile designer and interior designer called Penny Morrison, and I made these curtains to go in this space. I upholstered the headboard and made these bolster cushions out of some fabric from the cloth shop, which is on Portobello Road here. They have fabulous fabrics, which I work with a lot. The linen is by a company called Piglet in Bed, and I love changing the linen up. Like, I have some white linens and pink scallops and all ginghams, and I love doing a print clash on a bed, as long as you keep it all in the same kind of green. I remember one time an art teacher told me that every colour of green goes with each other, just look at a tree. I'm like, I mean, he's not wrong, is he? So I brought that principle with me into this home. And then behind us we have good old staple. It's a Hemnes IKEA chest of drawers, and I've painted it in Farrow and Ball cardroom green. Again, it wasn't primed. It's done very well. I love this colour. It's the kind of colour that I would definitely paint on walls if I owned my home. So yeah, it's nice to be able to bring one of the shades that you would like into a house through furniture with paint. Then here I made this mirror. Well, I didn't make it from scratch. It's an IKEA mirror behind. And then I made the mitered corners and created the frame out of some wavy trim there. So that was another really great. This green, it's called Bancha. It's another Farrow and Ball colour. The walls are a colour called Phlox, Phlox, by a British company called House of Hackney. They've got an amazing paint collection. It's new. I was really impressed with it. Then we have got another radiator cover here, and then this 3x4 selection of art prints. This was from a project I worked with a brand. They have amazing, it's called Wall of Art. They have an insane selection of pieces. I think I probably trawled through something like 18,000 artworks and came up with this combination. I really love them. All of them speak to me. I think this one's my favourite. It's called Fleur Fleur. But I love how they feel in combination, and I love the idea of, you know, creating one statement through multiple pieces of art. Then behind us we have got this piece, this rattan piece, which really speaks to that kind of Caribbean feel. This is a vintage piece that I got from Vinteria. I love that. These lamps, I love these lamps, these squiggle lamps by a maker here called Bias Editions, which I really love. Gorgeous. Some more rattan around the mirror. This is a piece, I always say this is my pandemic bouquet because it's July 2020. I remember buying it and just like desperately wanting to be cheered up. But in the end, it's kind of, I guess, like grounded the palette in here, and I've colour matched the exact blue to paint this metal lamp here. So you've got the exact colour there, again, to bring that in. And then I guess my final thing in this room is this piece. It's by Hester Finch, and this is probably my favourite artwork in the whole house. I think it's super selfish that I have it in here because obviously, unless you're doing a room tour like this, people don't really come into your bedroom unless they're like ultra nosy. So it's something that mostly just my partner and I see, but that feels like it almost makes it even more special. I look at it every day. I love the way that it works with the colours in this room. Yeah, and it means a lot to me. I really, really love it. I think home to me has always been about a sense of peace. That moment that you walk through the door and you're safe, it's a sanctuary. And part of that for me is also sharing it with other people. The idea that you can open the door and you have curated this place that feels tranquil and welcoming, and it can be a home from home for lots of other people, not just me. That's really what I aim to achieve in every home that I decorate. And you know, it's my dream. For some people, they don't care about their environment. I absolutely understand that. Like, would be a waste of their time and energy to be doing all this stuff that I do. But for people like me to not feel comfortable in your home, it's really deadly from, you know, a mental health perspective, from a feeling of your own success, your own esteem. I need to feel that I've expressed myself in my space to feel at peace.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Kemi. Welcome to my home in London. I call it Cottage Noir and I'd love to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
Hello everyone, I'm Kemi Lawson. We're in Stanmore in North London in my home, which I call Cottage Noir. This house has a very long and interesting history. We think it was built around 1750, 1760, and it's actually two cottages, two workmen's cottages. One was a bakery and one was where the baker lived. And sometime in the last 20 years, the two cottages were converted into one family home. So the walls are about this thick. They're really thick brick walls with a lot of kind of lime plaster, natural plaster on them. It's got lots of fireplaces, lots of wooden beams, which we think have been repurposed from some ships. This is very much a family home. I live here with my husband and my two little daughters who are 10 and 12. And it's got a lovely story of kind of continuous residence from people from 1750 up till now. And I know so much about this house because when we moved in, we inherited this lovely book which was full of information about the house that successive people who have lived here have filled in, from the census records in 1760, so we know the name of the actual baker, up until people, you know, living 20 years ago in the house and the kind of work they've done. So it was a lovely feeling of we're now the new custodians of this house, and then we'll pass it on to the next family when we move. I immediately knew I had to move in when I came into the house because I just love the aesthetic and I love the energy that I felt in the house. I termed the way I've decorated this home as Afro-Aristo meets Caribbean chic. Now let me explain what I mean by that. Our heritage is Nigerian and Jamaican, and I've definitely drawn on these two different kind of black heritages to inform how I wanted the home. So I've got a lot of kind of fabrics and textiles and art and colour that remind me both of my childhood spent in Nigeria and also of my mother's country, Jamaica. Welcome to the Cottage Noir hallway. As I said, this is very much a lived-in family home. It's my daughter's 12th birthday today, so you'll see balloons and cards, which we use to celebrate today, and I'll talk you through a few of the other items in this room. So the first thing you see when you come in is this wallpaper, which is a black and white wallpaper that I sourced from this designer in Haiti called Yela Valerie. And what they are, if you look closely, are little houses. And these are Haitian houses called gingerbread houses. And it's what the Haitian aristocrats and the powerful people of the 1900s used to built to live in. So if you remember before, I said my aesthetic was kind of Afro-Aristo. I wanted to show the high end, the luxe of the African and African diaspora experience. And these gingerbread houses really encapsulate it. They're really clever houses. They're very very cool inside and hurricane resistant. And they're also architecturally really beautiful. And there's lots of different ones all around in the wallpaper. And then it's such a great wallpaper. You even see a little lady lying down reading outside the house. It's really detailed. And so I love the idea of you're coming in a house and then you're seeing houses, which I also extended here, which I have art of lots of different houses again. And what's special about this particular painting is, along with the book I was telling you about, which talked about the house's history, I inherited this picture of the actual cottage that I live in. That was, and we'll leave it here for when we move for the next people to live in. So it's a lovely kind of memento of cottage noir. Over on here, I have the console, which of course is full of all the kind of Doritos of family life, but on top I have a few things that are quite special to me. The first is this candle. So we've got into designing our own things with the Cornrow, and one of the first things we designed is our own candle, which we always have burning here, and we put a phrase on it, fine girl. So we spent our childhoods in Lagos, Nigeria, and it's a real ubiquitous phrase out there. You hear fine girl, and it's kind of like something everyone says and always brings a smile to people's faces. So that's what we call the candle. So we have a fine girl and a fine boy candle on site. And I also have this, which I bought at auction. It's so pretty. Every time I look at her, I just can't stop. It's called a lobby head, and it's also from West Africa, but this time from Burkina Faso. And they're meant to be protectors of the home. So I thought it's quite nice to have it in the front as well, because she's going to protect our home. And so I love the energy of it. And I also love her cornrow styles. My daughters often wear their hair like this, and it's lovely for them to see it represented in art as well. One great thing about living in a cottage, it's full of quirks that you wouldn't necessarily have in a modern home. So this window, we're not quite sure what it was, but we think perhaps this is where it wasn't a window once, and it was a little opening where the baker might have dealt with their customers kind of through this hole here, and it's now been made as a window. But regardless, it's brilliant because it lets all this light into hallways. Cottages are usually traditionally kind of dark places, but it gives us a great avenue of light. And of course, I put a little picture of my husband there to kind of jazz it up a bit. But yeah, it's great you notice it. We've even got smaller windows upstairs. It's full of interesting features. One part of sadness for me is that I've mentioned a lot about Yoruba, which is my traditional culture, but I don't speak the language, and neither do my children. However, we're trying so hard to introduce it to them. So what I thought when we moved in is I would get a custom rug, and instead of welcome, which of course rugs traditionally have, it will say akabo on it, which is my language, Yoruba, for welcome. So every time someone comes in, they'll see akabo written here, and I got a font, kind of like a handwritten font, and so it's a great marker as soon as you open the door that you can see that this is a proud British Yoruba home. So let me show you my living room. My professional journey has been a real pivot. For about 15 years, I was Miss Finance. I worked in investment banks, I worked in valuations, I was all spreadsheets and working in the City of London. What happened is I had a big kind of change around the same time that I moved into this house, because I just so enjoyed decorating the house and finding and sourcing things that I loved, that I wanted in my home, combined with the fact that I found it so difficult to actually do this because it was very hard to find this kind of modern Afro-Aristo, Caribbean and chic aesthetic that I was telling you about. I realized there was a business opportunity here. So I decided to kind of ditch the finance, which I realized actually wasn't my passion anyway. I've always loved history and heritage and art, and so this felt much more me, and set up a business with my sister called the Cornrow, where we would be, as it were, a curation and edit, a one-stop shop for people who wanted this kind of modern Afrocentric aesthetic that I just adore. I am so lucky. It really is a breeze working with my sister, and I'm not just saying that. We've just got we agree on the important things in terms of what we think is beautiful and our aesthetic and what we want out of the business, and we also have complementary skill sets. She's very good at kind of the digital marketing side and that kind of the business logistics side, and then I work more on the creative side. So it really works. And if we ever have an argument, then our mum can sort us out. So here we are in my living room. The first thing about it is there's two fireplaces. One works and one doesn't. This is the one that doesn't. So then I thought, okay, let's have a lot of fun with this in terms of interior design. And I got a black and white geometric tile kind of all through. I made them lay it randomly, which actually is harder than it looks, because I just didn't want it to look at all like it had a plan. And so they managed to pull it off, and I'm really happy with it. And I was very lucky that I found an artwork that really complements it, and a blind also with black and white geometric. So it became a real theme of this room, which I loved. And I loved how it contrasted with the walls, which I've put a kind of a seagrass effect. So it gives it a really kind of textural effect, because I wanted it to feel kind of, the room to feel like a warm hug, not at all kind of cold and clinical. And then I had these two areas here which I thought would be great to make bookshelf reading. I refuse to go onto Kindle. I buy all my books, and so I need as much space as possible. So I filled it with books and also just little mementos, wedding photos, my first going out handbag, just things that are really special to me. On top here, I have two dolls right here, which a really good example of what I mean by modern Aristo. So these are dolls made by a Belgian artist who was really inspired by South African and West African doll culture. There were some lovely dolls which people used in West Africa, which were plastic, and everyone knows these little baby dolls. And she's turned them into these wonderful ceramic dolls and kind of decorated them in that black and white geometric vibe, which I love so much. And they're also available on the Cornrow, and we think they're really special. I've also got these two leopards here, which are reproduction Benin bronzes. So the Benin bronze is one of the most prestigious, amazing art forms coming out of Nigeria. You might have heard about the siege of Benin, where the British colonialists ransacked it and took a lot of the treasures to British Museum and other places. And there's a continued debate about they should be sent back to where they belong, which is in Nigeria. And so I've got this to kind of, as they're so beautiful artistically, and also reminds us about our heritage as well. These two ladies are very special to me. They're called Aisha and Sade. They've got the most magnificent, proud, regal expressions, and I can't imagine having a house without Aisha and Sade there. They're some of our most popular products in the Cornrow, and everyone who buys them just loves them so much, because they're just powerful, badass, wonderful women to have in your home. Sourcing things for the Cornrow is a kind of all of the above strategy. We always say we're on foot and we're online. On foot, we look a lot at auction houses, even eBay, sometimes you can find things, and also, of course, traveling. My sister just came back from South Africa. She got some wonderful things in Johannesburg and Cape Town that we've just put on the site, so we're always looking. And then online is such a great resource for us too. We were a business that birthed in lockdown, so much of the business has been online, and we've met other creators and makers, and which we've then put their products on the site and built relationships. And so that's been able to give us such a broader kind of, you can't travel everywhere, but online you can. And so we've got things, we've built relationships with people in Haiti, again in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana. And so that's just the whole globe is at our dispersal, finding these products that we think are special enough to be part of the Cornrow edit. So yeah, that's this side of the house. And then again, I've got some artwork as well. I'm always on the lookout for this. I think I was just walking down the street and I saw this person selling art, and I was like, that's Grace Jones, isn't it? And he's like, yes. And so I picked that up. And then I have these dolls. Actually, this is the doll I was telling you about. That was the original dolls that children in the 50s and the 60s used to play with in Ghana and Nigeria. And then these are the modern version. So you can kind of see the whole story, the whole transition there, which I thought was really nice. My husband and my two daughters play the piano and the saxophone. In fact, we're really happy today because my daughter just found out she passed her grade 5 exam. So that was great. The other side of the living room is the business end with the TV and the sofa, which we all kind of come in, chill. I love cushions. If I ever see a cushion, my eye's drawn to it. We sell a lot of them on the Cornrow. This one, I've seen in another Homeworthy house tour actually. It's by a wonderful South African designer called Shine. And then this one is by a Haitian designer, Yela Valerie, the same lady that did the gingerbread houses, and another wallpaper that I'll show you when we go upstairs. We had to do the sofa custom because, of course, being a cottage, it's all got different lumps and bumps, and we couldn't really buy something off the shelf, so it's kind of cut off to fit the mold of the walls of the cottage. But the good thing about needing something custom is I could choose whatever I wanted in terms of fabric. So again, I was looking for something that kind of brought in the kind of West African symbolism imagery, and I thought that really worked with this kind of stripy design that I sourced over here in London. Something I'm very proud of is this wall art, which is called an Asafo flag, which is from Ghana in West Africa. And it's a kind of dying art form. It's kind of hand done by these artisans who kind of cut out the fabrics to make this flag. And traditionally they were used as part of military companies. So every military company on this area in the Ghanaian coastline had their own flag. And when you would see the British flag here, which is quite interesting for an African piece of art. And as I said, these people were coastal, so they had a lot of exposure to kind of the British Navy and everyone who's coming up in terms of colonialization. So they used some of the motifs from them. This one is, I really wanted this particular flag for the house because of what it represents, which is a proverb. And the proverb is about the welcoming tree, which bears fruit. So you can see the tree here with lots of fruit, and all the animals from the snakes to the bull to the birds are coming to enjoy the tree. And that's how I want the house to feel, like a welcoming tree, and people coming to enjoy, being with us in our company and hospitality. So that's this Asafo flag, and which we love them so much. We have more bookshelves here, which of course I'm very proud of, and I've started to collect some first editions and stuff, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how that develops. I was really excited about these two chairs because they're black and white geometric, and I was looking for chairs and we had no chairs here for ages because they had to be the perfect chairs, and then when I saw these I was like, we've got it. We've got, again, other cushions. Now, one thing about cottage noir is everything has an intention. There's nothing just here for being here's sake. So our cushions, this isn't just any old lady. This is a Haitian revolutionary freedom fighter, Sanete Belair, who died for the Haitian Revolution. And she this is this wonderful Haitian artist, and this is her cushion. And on this side, we have a representation of an ancient queen of Benin. So again, I've talked about Benin Kingdom. It's very important to me, the story of Benin, and it's lovely to see the queen here on my cushion. So draped on the chair is a throw. I love the color palette. I just think it goes really well with kind of black and white and warm aesthetic of the living room. And embroidered on the throw is an expression that is really powerful for the Black community. It says, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. And it's an expression that basically really speaks to the colorism that's so often in society, and lets my daughters know that, deep, dark brown skin is beautiful. And then, talking, as I said, about the modern Afrocentric aesthetic, another example of that is this beanbag here. So the fabric, it couldn't be more ancient. This is called adire fabric. It's made in Nigeria. It's like a hand dye. Adire means to tie and dye. So it's a tie and dye fabric done by hand. Everyone is completely unique. People traditionally used it for clothing. But I wanted to modernize it, so I've made it into a beanbag, which I don't think has ever been done before. But I thought it was a great way to kind of have an ancient ancient fabric, but within a kind of modern context. Here you have kind of more books and artwork. This is a lovely Ghanaian fertility symbol. I'm a bit wary of holding it because 2 girls is enough for me, but it's a very powerful and very beautiful piece of art. This I picked up on travels to South Africa, a little handmade ceramic. I love it because it's like 3 ladies done really lots of beautiful detail here, and I love the colours as well. So many times when people think of West Africa or African art, it's bright primary colours, which is great, but it doesn't always have to be like this. And one detail I love about this is they've all got little babies on their backs. As you see, it's actually how we all carry our babies in West Africa. This is something I picked up recently in Paris, in a flea market in Paris. And I asked my daughters when I came back, can you guess what it was? And they couldn't guess. And I don't blame them really, because it's actually a pillow. So traditionally in West Africa, you'd have these beautifully ornate braided styles, and you wouldn't want to ruin it, would you, by sleeping flat? So people would sleep on things like this to elevate their head. And what I love about it is it's just something very functional, something to elevate your head, but somebody's taken the time to carve and paint it beautifully. And it's quite unusual to see something painted quite so vibrantly. So it caught my eye immediately in Paris, and I was like, bonjour, this one please, and my best French, and managed to secure it. This is a working fireplace, but again, I've put things in here which I think I love it because you've got this traditional 18th century English fireplace, but then I've got African masks here as well, and then this geometric vase which we love and also saw in the Cornrow. And then it was important for me to put cotton in the house. Now I've read on the internet, it's quite interesting, different views about having cotton as an aesthetic in the house as a black person, particularly as a black American person. Obviously, there's a lot of ties here with cotton plantations and slavery and all that. And so I did think of it myself, but I was thinking of it as kind of celebratory and a remembrance, really, better than celebratory, a remembrance of kind of people, of ancestors and what they've been through and what they've overcome, and, the beauty in that. So that's why I think it was lovely to put cotton in the house. I think my favourite thing in my home is something that's in my bedroom. It's a framed work of art which was given to me on my Yoruba traditional wedding when I got married 15 years ago. And it's a letter that's been handwritten on hand-woven fabric, which is a traditional letter that the groom's parents give to the bride's parents, asking, please, can Kemi come into my family and marry our son? And it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful work of art on its own. And then it's such a lovely message that my in-laws have written to me. And then on top of all that, it's a fundamental and wonderful part of my ancient Yoruba culture. So it's kind of 3 in 1. I think of it as a family heirloom, and I really hope my children and grandchildren will have it in their house somewhere. And it's, again, as I was saying earlier, it's unique and special to this family, and so priceless, really. Then I would like to talk about this coffee table, which is an auction purchase. It is a repurposed coffee table. It was not built to be one. If you can see, it's got a giant slab of wood underneath, which we think was part of maybe a church or some kind of municipal building, the other way around. And so that has obviously been taken off the building, chopped up, turned around, and someone's put a glass on it. And hey presto, it turns out to be a piece that's perfect size for the coffee table, for the sitting room. And then on top of it, another space to store all my books, which I have kind of rotate them depending on what I've just purchased or what I'm dipping in and out of. So I've got my books here, and I always like to have books in case the girls might be interested in reading something, trying to get them to read as much as possible. And then finally, inside the books, you'll see this here, which is actually a board game called Ayo, A-Y-O. And it's played a lot in Nigeria, but actually across West Africa and quite a lot of countries in the global south as well, actually. My daughters play it quite a lot with her husband, and it's you need to be good at mental maths. And it's kind of like you move these around the board in order to get certain numbers in each certain hole. And so it's aesthetically, it's a beautifully carved piece of wood, but it's also a fun game to play. Let me show you the rest of the house. Let's start off with the kitchen. I would say my personal style, is kind of modern Afrocentric. Like, I would be pretty sure when you came in this home, you would know there was somebody of African heritage or someone that was very close to Africa and its culture and its soul, but in a modern way as well. So not just, when you think a lot of times people think of kind of Africa, West Africa, go to rural scenes or safari scenes and all this kind of stuff. And that's just not my way. When I go back to West Africa, to Nigeria, that's not what I see. I see a modern, vibrant community. And so I wanted to bring that in as well. Also the fact that it's a family home, it's so important to me that I wanted somewhere that my 2 children could have a relaxed time, nothing too precious here, things that will inspire them. They're having a sleepover on Saturday, things that their friends will, you know, come and enjoy being in this environment. So as much as I wanted it to be visually very kind of representative of my heritage, I also wanted it to be a warm, welcoming, fun place to be. Welcome to my kitchen. The kitchen is actually the room I did the least with. It was quite a good kitchen cabinets here already, and I rather use the budget on the rest of the house. But the one thing I did do, as you might be able to guess, is just choose a bright green color to repaint all the cabinets in. I wanted something fun and vibrant to kind of encourage me to be in the kitchen as much as possible, because I'm not the most enthusiastic chef. And also the kitchen is very close to the garden, so I wanted to have that kind of feeling of bringing the outside in. It was quite hard to choose the right shade of green, because you might go to a paint shop and there's like a million different greens, and I knew in my head exactly what I wanted. So I was so excited when I found this one and it worked out. I did commission one thing for the house though, which I couldn't resist, which is this, which is a mosaic actually by a lovely artist, UK-based artist called Dion Ibley. And we talked about it a lot. I wanted it to be mainly green because of the green cabinets, but I wanted it again to represent this kind of modern Afrocentric vibe. So what we did is we took 2 fruits, the ackee fruit and the Scotch bonnet fruit. One which is really popular and iconic in Nigeria, which is Scotch bonnet, which makes all our food really spicy. And then the ackee is the Jamaican national fruit. So she made little mosaic Scotch bonnet and ackees in various stages of ripening and kind of put it on here. And it's a great dual purpose because it's a splashback to protect my walls, and it's also kind of really aesthetic and celebrating my culture and heritage. Other thing, again, as I always say, that always makes me smile is that everything is intentional in Cottage Noir. So even our tea towels, you know, we don't have regular like checkered red and white tea towels here. This one here is Toussaint Louverture, which is the, you know, you can tell I have a bit of a love affair with Haiti. He's the Haitian freedom fighter that won independence from the French. It's absolutely amazing in the 1700s. And the story about him and his image is here on the tea towel, which is lovely. And again, I'm hoping a little subtle history lesson for my daughters. And then even my oven glove here is brilliant. It's hands, black hands, because again, it's what we said about representation, you know, it's black people living in the UK. Often, you know, you look on the TV or in shops and you don't see yourself anywhere. And I wanted, where it really resonated at Christmas when I was looking for black angels for my girls for the Christmas tree and I couldn't find any. But it's not just at Christmas. So when I found products like this, which is great, and it's got names of black musical stars across the ages, I was like, I need this in my home. And then, of course, to sell on the Cornrow as well, which is where it's really popular. Well, this cottage is just on so many different levels. You had 1 step down to go to the kitchen, then 2 steps down to go to the dining room, which I wasn't planning on showing the dining room today. I'm kind of in between doing some interior designy work because there's a dining room and there's another room at the back here, which is a shame, but I can't show you. They're not really ready to film. But you can just see, you're right, the different levels. And upstairs, again, lots of steps and everything like that. And then, of course, these wonderful beams that you'll see going across the house that we've painted in various colors. 2 girls, you need a lot of organization. Organization isn't my strong suit, so as much as I can write things down and schedule things is best. And so when I had this wall here, I had the idea of using chalkboard paint rather than ordinary paint. And so that means that I can kind of write and rub off quite easily. So I've got the week schedule of what the girls are doing every day, which is really helpful. And I also have more space here, which we kind of use as needs be. So it's just ways to help me be organized. And actually this wall's pretty interesting because here, you know, we have a random kind of key here, which we think is something to do with the original baker's oven. No one's really sure, but it's kind of like a fun little quirky thing in the house. Next, I want to show you a super cool secret door we have. You'd probably get two different answers to whether my husband was involved in interior design, depending on who you're talking to. I definitely was involved, and I kind of gave him options of things and made sure he liked everything, so he didn't just feel kind of like swept away by it all. But I was lucky enough that he kind of handed the reins to me. I mean, one thing is he does have a man cave, which he did choose a lot of the decoration and the furniture there, so that made him happy. But the overall aesthetic, I'm to credit or to blame, depending on what you think. If you look down there, you'll see what looks like a bookshelf. It even has a light fitting and a skirting board at the bottom to show that it really is a shelf. But it's not actually a shelf. This is actually wallpaper, and it leads into my husband's man cave over here. So again, we wanted the house to be fun and surprise visitors, and so this was really important for us to kind of, we saw a door and we thought, what can we do to make it interesting? Let's head upstairs and I'll show you the bedrooms. As you head upstairs, you can't miss this wallpaper that I've put in this corner here. This is a wallpaper about the 6 ages of Black womanhood from Yale and Valerie, the Haitian designer I mentioned earlier. And it's got a woman representing different eras of Black womanhood, back to the Benin Kingdom, which I was telling you about, to freedom fighters in the US. Sorry, not this one. This one is a freedom fighter, Catherine Cleaver, the US Civil Rights Movement. We've got Sanita Belair, who is a Haitian revolutionary. We've got a woman who kind of crystallizes kind of every woman looking after her family. And we've got a woman here who is a spy in the Haitian Revolution. Where is she? Here. And really managed to get lots of secrets out of the French. So each picture tells a huge story. And what I love about it, not only is it bright and vibrant being yellow, but it's the first thing my daughters, whose bedroom's right here, what they see every morning when they leave their bedroom. So I really hope it kind of pumps them up and inspires them. Let's go check out one of my daughter's rooms. So this is the smallest room of the house, and when we first went into it, I was like, oh my gosh, where am I going to fit a bed? It's so small. And then we realized there was a little cubby area here, which was actually the perfect size for a single bed, which would be brilliant for my 10-year-old daughter. So we custom built this bed, and of course, being cottage noir, it wasn't just going to be an ordinary bed. We decided to make it into a princess bed. So I got some, the curtains to be made into this kind of pull back here, and at night time she closes them when she's feeling like she wants to be all snuggled up inside. And then inside we've put a custom wallpaper. Now if you can see carefully, it's actually lots of lots of mattresses, because it's based on the story of Princess and the Pea, and sleeping under, the pea was underneath and the princess could feel it. And so I hope it makes her feel like this is a princessy kind of bed. Decorating is a combination of her stuff and my stuff, which you might be able to see the difference here. I love this product in particular. It's Anu Mermaid cushion, which is also available in the Cornrow. Again, coming back to representation, I just wanted her to know that she can be anything, even a mermaid. And it was before the Little Mermaid movie came out with Halle Bailey in it, so we were there first, and we love it. And then, of course, the important storage at the bottom, because I think the best kind of design is when something's visually appealing but also works and is useful. And so these two huge drawers underneath hide a lot of stuff, so it helps her room be uncluttered. Yes, my daughter, she definitely does have a lot of input on a lot of the soft furnishing she chooses, and then the colour of the wallpaper. So we chose a particular kind of wallpaper which reminded me of that tie-and-dye adire fabric that I told you about earlier. And she could have chosen any colour she wanted, that wallpaper, and she chose this kind of soft grey colour. So that was great. So it kind of a way that I kind of was very much involved, but she felt like she had some agency as well. So being an ancient cottage, every room has a fireplace, because of course that's how they kept their houses warm in those days. This fireplace, though, has been cottage noir. It's been I wanted a punchy colour on it, so we chose a green colour, so it kind of made a more feature of it. And then what she did, and she actually helped get involved in this as well, is we've put this kind of glitter paint over it. So at night time it really kind of sparkles as well, and makes it kind of like a fun feature of her room. I love this picture. It's one of my favorite pictures of my daughters, and that, I don't know if they still do it now, but about 10 years ago it was a real thing to do a cake shot of your daughter, kind of let her eat her cake in her first birthday. And I love this picture, and we had to really convince her to eat the cake. She's not so happy to have it. She thinks it's a bit embarrassing picture, but I just think it's the cutest thing. I think one thing I think you should have, I don't like to be judgmental, but one thing I think is wonderful to have in kids' rooms is just lots of books. Now, if I was not myself, this would be lovely, arranged beautifully, and it was when we first moved in. Now you can just see this is a very much lived-in bookcase, because she's always taking books out, putting books in, sharing with her sisters. And so we've got a wide range of books for children across the house. Again, you'll see a lot of the books have got the representation that I think is so important. This is one of our favourite. He's a Black British historian called David Olusoga. He's amazing, and he does these books for young children. And then we have a combination of fiction, non-fiction. And again, as I said, with the bookshelves downstairs, it's great not just to have bookshelves, but to have little knickknacks here as well. So we went to Kennedy Space Center. She has something from there. They're always trying to beat their time on their Rubik's Cube. And then she has art that she's made herself. Because, you know, the best art, to go back to what I said earlier, is the things that your family make, or what you create, or what make meaning to you. So I think I'll never lose some of these little cutie things that she did at school. I think what gives home a soul is personal possessions. Yeah, that's why I feel like every home really should be individual. What makes it unique are the things that are unique to you, whether it's your mementos you picked up on holiday, or your favorite books that you have on the bookshelf, or the postcards that you picked up at this exhibition you liked last week, or, you know, things like that. Your own personal archive, which I think shouldn't be stored away in photographic albums or in cupboards, but should be displayed and enjoyed. And that's what's you, and that's what gives your home its soul. This is my older daughter's room. She has the same wallpaper as her younger sister. Again, she could choose whatever colour she wanted, as long as it was that particular wallpaper. And so she went for purple because it's her favourite colour. Now, the big argument that me and my daughter had in the room was about the bed, because I fell in love with this bed at an auction site. It's an antique bed, kind of the same period as the house, so I thought it just matched it perfectly, and it just reminded me of like a fairy tale cottage bed. She loves it now, and it's super comfy, but I guess she wanted a new custom bed like her sister, so luckily I managed to win that battle. Again, I have a real love affair for curtains and stuff. I think that comes from my Jamaican heritage as well. And so we got this custom curtain to go over it to give her that kind of more cozy, grand feeling. And then a lovely little flower print at the behind here. So that was really special. Again, my girls have a lot of input into what kind of duvet and the soft furnishings. They can choose that, so a lot of it is them. This is her favourite cushion, which her grandma made for her, and you can see it's all a bit dog-eared now, but she won't sleep without it. She had a fireplace as well, so this one was, again, purple to give it the pop of colour, and glittery. And then all sorts of services. I always feel almost more is more. I just love it as an expression of the things that we collect and we love. And she has these African Russian dolls on her fireplace, which are great. I always thought Russian dolls, you can get Russian dolls of dolls, looking at dolls, or looking like pets, or looking like flowers, but I've just never seen a black woman on a Russian doll. So I actually commissioned some and to sell on the Cornrow, and then I had to have some at home as well. So this is a lovely set of kind of African women Russian dolls that she has here. Venus and Serena Williams, the sisters' book, that takes pride of place. My girls play tennis too, and although I don't think they're quite Venus and Serena standard, it's lovely to kind of have that kind of parallel. And she has a 2022 vision board up that we did at the beginning of the year, and see how that's going. And just little thing, this used to be a hat when she went to a little prep school here, so we've kept that as a little piece of her personal history. My girls love these. They have so many of them. I have no idea, but whenever they have a birthday or we go shopping, they always pick up another one. I think they're quite popular with the tweens in the UK. Let's head to my bedroom now. Okay, welcome to my bedroom. So across the house, you saw, as I said, I kind of like a lot of things, a lot of energy, a lot of more is more. Apart from my bedroom, I've actually had my bedroom trying to be the most minimal zen room of the house because I really just kind of come in here to sleep. I don't even have clothes in my bedroom. I just really wanted somewhere that I just come and relax and unwind. So there's basically two big things in my bedroom. One is the bed, which I wanted to squeeze in the biggest bed I could so it'd be maximum cozy. And this headboard, which I was really excited about, it's a friend designer of mine called Eva Shinaike. She's a Nigerian British designer, and this is an ancient symbol of eternity. So I think that's lovely for kind of a bedroom, like a marital bed. And then, of course, the wallpaper, which I just love every time I see it. It's clouds. It actually is wallpaper that had to be laid in a very specific way to get that kind of continual effect. And again, we wouldn't want to lie down sleeping in the clouds. The ceiling of this bedroom, a very pale blue colour. I wish I painted more ceilings actually. I feel like it's a fifth wall that often gets ignored, but I just didn't want that kind of harsh white next to this wallpaper. And I just wanted everything to be pale blue, which is what I did with the cupboard here and the bookshelf. Atop here, you'll see what I was talking about earlier, the letter that my husband's family sent to my family asking for my hand in marriage. And so we've had it framed here, and it's kind of a central part of the bedroom. And then that's basically it. It looks out to the garden. I just wanted a calm room. I found in IKEA actually, a lovely light fitting that I thought looked a bit like a cloud, which I thought worked well with my cloud theme. And yeah, just wanted it to be a restful, warm space. This is a sculpture that I picked up in Jamaica. It's actually a man and woman, it was their wedding day. So you can see they've sculpted the woman with her flowers there, looking adoringly at a very proud, recently made husband. And given that this is a room I spend with my husband, who I love to bits, I thought it was a lovely little representation of this. These light sconces are by a UK company called Pookie. I wanted them, as I said, I love reading, so it's a great way that I can kind of read and my husband can go to bed and switch off his one and I can have a bit of light. I wanted to get a nice shade of kind of blue that complemented the walls, and I just love this kind of brass fit. Okay, so come into this room, which is girls only, girl gang, and it's my daughter's bathroom. So they got to choose the design of this bathroom. They wanted all very minimalist and zen and spa-like, which I was like, okay, you can. But I was allowed one cottage noir touch, which were these tiles that we put here by the bath. And these are one-of-a-kind custom tiles made by a wonderful UK company called Ballineum. And they were made for an exhibition I did at the Museum of the Home. And they're cameos of black women with different hairstyles. And so it's very unusual, again talking about representation, to see a tile of a black woman or a cameo. So these are really special, and the artist really did a great job in kind of showing different colours and different hairdos, and this one, and earrings and everything. So it's lovely when the girls in the bath to have this kind of visual imagery for them, and adds a lovely warmth to this otherwise very aesthetic, as the girls love that word, aesthetic bathroom. I think home to me is an exhale. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I think so much is going on in the outside world. As a black woman, as just somebody who reads the news of what's going on right now, as someone, the economy, there's so many stresses outside the door. And I just feel when I come in and close the door, I just want to exhale and feel myself. It even happened today. I came in quite flustered, and as soon as I kind of got home, had my cup of coffee and everything, then I could feel my shoulders droop. And that's what I want for my family as well. It's our little solace, our safe space, and our place where we can kind of regenerate, ready for tomorrow.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.